And my example, by the way, was not about holding in our problems or dismissing those around us. Asking for help when we need help is courage. The small circle we surround ourselves with is a direct reflection of who we are. No, for me, it was about being the type of person who trusts myself to weather those storms. About moving with greater conviction. Graduating from going to be to is currently. That whiteboard, that phone call was the turning point and nothing more. And my example may fit your life like a glove. You may think, wow, that's exactly the lens I need right now. But maybe it's not. Maybe your situation is a little different. Maybe the road you're on is newer, less traveled. Maybe it's the courage to take that first step, to play the student. Perfect. Because whatever it is, as you look up at that next step, what matters is that you know in your heart and soul that you have what it takes to become that person. It's not bigger than you, it is you. Someone once told me that the world will not believe it until you do. So believe. Believe it like your dreams depend on it, because as it turns out, they do. As it turns out, everything about your future is make-believe until you breathe life into it. Look around you at your current reality. Remember that it is a product of what you've allowed, and that at any time you can up the ante. Climb the step, reach a new level. You have it within yourself to do that. Just give yourself permission to be that person. And it will be scary. It's going to hurt at times. But let's be that vulnerable. Let's show the world what we can create when we move into it as though it's ours. As though destiny isn't assigned, but written. One beautiful act of courage at a time.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Time for day 3 of our challenge. Who's excited? Who's ready for day 3? So today we go into meeting the family office. Today is about asset allocation. Now, some people, and I know in the VIP, people asked me, they said, what is a family office? Well, family offices look after the wealthiest people in the world. So if you can learn from a family office and you can copy what a family office is doing, or better still, maybe you can even partner with a family office, then if they're looking after the wealthiest people in the world, chances are it's going to work for you. Does that make sense? Excellent. What did we do yesterday? So yesterday we went into the what. What countries do we invest in? What currencies do we invest in? And what assets do we invest in? And today is all about the how. How do we actually do it? How do we build asset allocation? But before we do, I've got a very exciting movie. And this little video is especially for our ladies in the room. So let me share my screen here. And I want to share my options. Content only. So let's share quickly. Oh, hang on. No, that's the wrong screen. I want to share that screen. Right, ladies, enjoy this.
remember vividly how I felt when I lost my first tooth, the excitement that came with leaving it in a little box under my pillow, waiting for the tooth fairy to flutter in and wave her magic wand. I woke up filled with anticipation and can still feel the thrill of discovering a 5-rand note in the place where my tooth used to be. Even at that young age, I was contemplating how the gap in my smile was in fact an opportunity to earn extra pocket money. A gap in my smile, but also a gap in the proverbial market. There was something in that experience that made me eager to grow my money without having to wait what seemed like an age to lose my next tooth. As a mom with a smart, curious little girl of my own, I'm often inspired by the audacity and unlimited scope of her dreams, her childlike determination and fearlessness, how she's always searching for opportunities and new adventures. Even now, I'm still looking for gaps, like I did when I was her age, identifying new and exciting ways to grow my wealth. More gaps, more opportunities. I'm thrilled that I found a way to do this with Wealth Migrate. I'm now part of an exclusive circle of people who have direct access to real estate investment opportunities all over the world. Even my daughter can see our investments growing, almost as if by magic, just like that night when the tooth fairy visited me. I'm so proud of who that little girl has become. It all started with something as simple as a loose tooth. And today I can look back, having invested in diverse properties all over the world thanks to Wealth Migrate. Join us and learn from the experts that will teach you how to create financial independence. Get informed and motivated in creating your own path to financial freedom. Register today by clicking on the link. This is for young and old alike. See you there.
So to the woman in the room, what do you think? The world is changing. There's a whole movement around the world around women and the move towards women. So if you are interested, I can put the link in to the WhatsApp group. It's a group of women around the world that are actively pursuing this. And what's really interesting is that over the next 10 years, there's going to be the biggest transfer of wealth into the hands of women. Women are going to be controlling it. And it's really interesting, the trends that are happening around the world. So if you're a lady and you want to participate, or if you're a man and you know a lady that wants to participate, then just type in the chat box for me, woman, and I will see that there's people interested and I'll put the post in for you. Okay, let's rock and roll and get straight into day 2. Sorry, what day? I'm lost the day there. Day 3 in terms of the process. So that's still not the right screen. Why do I keep using the wrong screen? So that's the screen I want for you. And boom, let's rock and roll. Okay, so today is all about building a diversified portfolio. It's about asset allocation. It's how to craft a diversified investment portfolio that aligns with your financial goals. Today's going to take a little bit longer. There's a lot of content to go through, and the how becomes really, really important. You know, what are we going to be looking at? Well, we're going to be looking at the fact that 85% of your total return is going to come down to how you put your portfolio together. And it's going to be asset allocation strategies. It's going to be the different asset classes and their characteristics. It's going to how to build a diversified portfolio, and ultimately how to build a wealth plan. The tips for success. So this, for me, I say this every day, but you know, if you're going to be here, if you're going to put your time aside, my strong recommendation is that you commit fully. You really put your time and effort into this, and you get focused on what we're going through. There's a lot that I'm going to be sharing with people, and you know, that is important. I will in the break, I'll put up the link for the people that have asked for the link to Women in Wealth. Then in terms of where we're going from here, sorry, my mouse got lost there. I just remind you of the resources guide. So if you go here, you know, you should all have access to the resources. So you've got day 1, and you've got all the different details here in day 1. You've got day 2 with the recording from day 2. You've got all the different resources links, and then the action steps, and then everything that was below here. Ann Wilson, my book, Property Going Global, joining Wealth Hackers, the community, it's all in one place. So hopefully life is becoming really easy for you to have it all in one place in terms of that process. Right, let's go back here. You've got the WhatsApp group that you should know about now, which is where we communicate in terms of this. and you've got the university group where you can go and you can engage. If you want to join the VIP, there's still a chance. You can literally go to the link, diversificationchallenge.com/VIP. I'll just put the link in. I know someone was asking about that yesterday, so let me just do it for you quickly. Here's the link. Boom, boom, boom. The most important thing with the VIP is you can come and join me in these live sessions. You also get all the recordings and you get the workbook in terms of that process. So, and again, I continue to get loads of comments around the value that people get from that. So what are we here for? Well, we're here for globally diversified passive income and portfolio growth. How do we do it? Well, we diversify across countries, currencies, assets, partners, and time. And it's all about passive income. And whenever you've got a hairy, audacious goal, it's about, long-term planning, and then, your sub goals, which at a mastermind level, we do on a monthly basis. And then it's your daily tasks and activities. Joseph, thanks for the kind words there, where you said VIP is so worth it. I know that whenever I do these experiences where I'm the participant, I always pay for VIP because it adds so much value to get in the room with the speakers and to actually learn and engage with them. And there's no formal agenda. It's a Q&A type environment. Yesterday, we went through the different asset classes. We went through, what are the different countries, currencies, and the different assets. And the homework for yesterday, the silver, was fill in your top 5 countries. So you should all have your investment strategy sheet. And you basically got, oops, wrong way around. You got your top 5 countries, your top 5 currencies, your top 15 assets. And then there's the opportunity to join the Wealth Hackers, which, think of it like the Netflix for wealth, where you can get everything in one place. It's, remember the 20% discount as well, if you participate while you're part of this challenge. And there's the link if you want that. I should probably put the link in. Sorry, just 2 seconds. I need to grab all these links for you. So link to Wealth Hackers. Okay, so there you've got the link. But again, just to remind you, it's always in the resources to make life easy for you in terms of that process. Okay, so that's the opportunity there. And then finally, share one key takeaway with your community. So I do take time to go and engage with that, and I would strongly recommend that. In terms of the bonus, you can watch Aaron Wilson. You don't need to do that last night, but I'd suggest you do it at some point around ETFs and how you can actually invest in the stock market. And if you were to join our mastermind, then our family office will actually help you with investing in the stock market. If at any point you want to talk to a human, then just go ahead and set up a call with one of our humans. Now, one of our team members. So this is one of our wealth consultants. Okay, now I want to get started. And what's really interesting to me is that I'm here to help you get results. So I said this yesterday, I'm here to help you get results. But there's 3 reasons why people don't get results. And remember, I've been doing this now. I've been training people and helping people invest for 22 years. So I've noticed a lot of patterns from people all over the world. And it's really interesting because I've been doing personal development now for 30 years. And so not only have I learned from others, but I've also learned for myself. What are the reasons why I don't, take action on certain things? So I want to basically take you through this and help you unblock. And I want to use my own personal stories. So there's 3 reasons. The one is I don't have the money. The second is I don't have the knowledge. And the third is I don't have the time. Now, I virtually guarantee you that every single one of you at some point have used that excuse. I don't have the knowledge, I don't have the money, or I don't have the time. I mean, do me a favor, type in the chat box, would you agree with me? At some point, there's something in your life that you've wanted to do that you haven't done because you used one of those excuses, if not all 3 of them. Yes or no? I can see a number of yeses coming in. Okay, so would you like to hear some personal stories from me as to how I overcame those objections? Because I'm teaching you the theory over these 5 days, but the most important thing I want you to do is take practical steps to take action to get results. So would you like me to share just a couple of personal stories today around how I broke through these barriers to be able to get results? Just let me know in the chat box, yes or no, if you'd like me to. Okay, so I can see a bunch of yeses coming in. So let's run through some personal stories. So let's go through the first one, Get What You Want. So when I first read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, so this book, mine's looking a lot more tired than the one on the screen. But when I first read my book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, my key takeaway in that was that what Robert Kiyosaki said was, he said, you know, poor people always have excuses. They always have reasons why they don't, can't get what they want. Whereas rich people always find a way. And so in 2010, I went on that course, that business mastery course in Vegas. It cost $15,000 and it was absolutely amazing. And then Tony Robbins offered a follow-up to that, which is where you could join his platinum circle and you could come to Fiji, and it was like the next level. And it cost $50,000. Now this was 2010. Now I remember, $50,000 was a lot of money to me at the time. And I was like, how am I going to do this? And again, the majority of people would just say, I can't afford that. But I was like, I want this. Like, I really know this would be super valuable for me. So I found a way. And I'm a big believer, where there's a will, there's a way. There's always a way. And so I found a way to be able to pay that $50,000 or invest. If invest is a far better word, I invested myself $50,000. And ironically, it wasn't even what Tony Robbins taught me when I was in Fiji, but he changed the way I thought. And I came up with a way. I was helping people invest in property in Australia. And I came up with a way. In those days, I was getting paid. I would sell a property, but I'd only get paid like a year or two later. I was selling off-plan developments. And I came up with a way where I could get paid up front. And, you fast forward 1 year later, and it's 2011, and I'm in New Zealand. And literally, my wife and I'm not married anymore, but I was married at the time. My wife and I took a trip around New Zealand. This was on 100 Mile Beach, which is a beach you can drive on right up in the North Island. And, my mates and I that were doing property in Australia, I took him to the Rugby World Cup final in Auckland at Eden Park. And what was so interesting is, while I was on holiday for those 6 days, sorry, not 6 days, sorry, it would have been about 2 weeks, my team sold 11 properties. And, that $50,000, I made that back many times over in 1 year. And just on a 10-day holiday in New Zealand, I made twice that. And so by investing in myself and getting what I wanted and going and doing it, I not only, learned at the event, but it dramatically took my life to the next level. And so when I say to you, I found that when I invest in myself, I get there quicker, simpler, and safer. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And if I put up this diagram here, and I'll just stop sharing quickly so that you can see me properly. I spoke to you today when we started around, on Monday when we started around mastery. And, I said, you don't want to be a dabbler. Dabbler's always changing. You don't want to be a stressor where you're trying to do everything yourself. You want to be a master. And so what I found in mastery for myself is that when I invest in myself, then I can get somewhere quicker, simpler, and safer. And ideally, if I can do it through partnership, then I can get there even quicker, simpler, and safer. So that's my lesson on the first one in terms of getting what you want. And as my father taught me, where there's a will, there's a way. There's always a way. If something's important to you, you can always find a way. So that was the first story. The second story I wanted to share with you, and sorry, just to give you an example of how you can, before I share my second story, yesterday I shared with you the wealth hackers, and I showed you how effectively it's the Netflix for wealth. And there's a whole program of home study courses. It started with Wealth Going Global, which is where you get access to the 6-module course, and there's literally everything from Wealth Going Global to Asset Class Mastery. I think rather than showing you a spreadsheet, let me show you what it looks like here in terms of it. So if we go to the classroom in Wealth Hackers, you've got, you basically start here, you've got a whole bunch of cool resources that we've put together. You've then got the investor roadmap, which is how you can start investing. You've got Wealth Going Global, which is the 6-module course, the right countries, currencies, assets, partners, and time, and then the bonus module of smart investing. You've got Asset Class Mastery, which is where every single one of the assets you can go into in detail from partners just like Gary around the world. So you can literally go through. There's probably over 30 hours of training just in all the different asset classes there from world-class people. You've got the Know Your Numbers workshop, which is all about knowing your numbers. And again, this is a detailed where you can go through. You've got the wealth journey, you've got speaking the investor language, you've got defining your freedom number, you've got the common traps that stop people, you've got 30-90. So there's a huge amount of detail here in terms of it. And I know it's a lot of content, and the idea is that's why it's the Netflix, because different things. This is something I love that I built last year, the Wealth Transformation Pack, where you've literally got 20 white papers all around mindset and purpose, the core wealth principles, the passive income and psychology, the investment vehicles and strategy, advanced mastery, portfolio and planning, and then big picture, future and legacy. So that's all in your Wealth Transformation Pack. And then you've also got the 6 pillars to wealth, the wealth EQ, what type of investor are you, how to teach your children about money, generational wealth, effective tax and structuring. You've got Clem Sunter on thinking the future. You've got our wealth weekend and you know, and the recordings, etc. So it just gives you, I mean, there's a plethora of information. Plus, and as part of the calendar, every Monday and Wednesday, my partner Alex is live. So you've got live sessions with him. And then every Friday, you've got me live for an hour on a Friday. So anyway, so that's the total value of it. It's over $60,000. And as you know, I offered it yesterday at a very, very affordable investment in yourself of $356 a year. So that if you do it annually, you get a whole bunch of extra benefits and you get a 20% discount. So you can literally go to the Wealth Hackers. I've given you the link already to that. And you can also go and try it for free. So you can actually try it for 7 days. Now, why do I do that? Simple. There's so much value in it. I know you'll never get through it in 7 days. And the bottom line is within 7 days, you can try it. So I know that everyone gets tremendous value out of it. With 7 days, you can also turn up and come and join us for the live sessions for a week. And so, for me, I know the value's there. So I've got no problem people trying it and building trust through the process. So that's the Wealth Hackers, and my strong recommendation is if you want to get what you want, then here is all the knowledge to be able to go and get it. And equally, just like I did with Tony Robbins, find a way. Find a way to be able to get going. And you've also got the support from Alex and I on a weekly basis in terms of that. So the first thing is that you get what you want. That is the absolute key. The next thing is where people say, I don't have the knowledge. So sorry, the first one is where people say I don't have the money. Well, the difference is, as part of kind of rich dad, poor dad, is you get what you want. You find a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. You go do it. Just like I did at the Tony Robbins course and just like I'm offering you for the Wealth Hackers. The next one is get the knowledge. And like I said to you, I've generally learned it through partnership. So let me go back and give you another personal story. So who believes in the whole theory of you need money to make money? Oh, what do you mean you can't see the full screen? Am I sharing the wrong screen? Damn it. Please just let me know if I ever do that. I don't know why sometimes it... Oh, boom, 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 boom. Okay, shit. Do I need to go back quickly? I'm just going to show you very quickly. What I was trying to show you is the calendar with the Know Your Numbers. So that's Alex on a Monday, Wednesday, and me on a Friday. And then the classroom, you can see all the different courses here in the classroom. So there's over $60,000 of value. And that's why we call it the Netflix for wealth in terms of the process. Now, sorry, Kevin and the others. I was, apologies. So where I was going is I said, the people that say I don't have the money, you need to change that mindset. And my invitation to you is change that mindset to, focus on getting what you want. Where there's a will, there's a way. And the Wealth Hackers is a great way to get started. You've got access to resources of library, that I'm not sure where else you would get that. And I'm not aware of being able to get it anywhere else. And we've made it as affordable as possible so that people can literally get started and get what they want. The next thing is getting the knowledge. And, I learned, again, back through mastery, through partnership. So, again, I want to share with you the story. So I asked the question, who believes in you need money to make money? You know, who believes in that theory? You need money to make money. Anyone? So I always like to use this story. I was 22 years old and I'd been in London for 1 year. I graduated in 1998 from UCT. And in 1999, I went to London. It was the end of 1999. And as I say, I was 22 years old. And my mate came back and he said, oh, my granny's selling her house. And I said, oh, wow, that's really interesting. Where is it? And he said, no, it's right on the corner in Rondebosch in Cape Town, you know, right where the students like to go. And I said, well, why don't we buy it? And he was like, what do you mean? And I said, why don't we buy your granny's house? And we didn't have any money at the time. So we went out and we found some investors. We got a mortgage and we secured the property. And I'll never forget, we bought it for like 900,000 Rand in Rondebosch. And I wanted to do a development. That was my background, construction management. So we went and we looked at getting planning and all that, and we realized that we didn't really know what we were doing. So we went and partnered with a developer because we had secured the site. And we did the whole development. We looked at doing 7 stories. We had planning for 7 stories of flats, but it was right on the Liesbeek River, which would have caused a whole bunch of problems with tanking and you know, drainage and everything in between. So we did the feasibility, and the best thing to do was to build 6 townhouses. So we built 6 townhouses, and 3 years later, myself and my friend banked 2 million Rand each, which was a lot of money for a 24, 25-year-old in terms of that process. And it's a great story of us literally getting started with no money, and then not having the ability. We didn't have the skills. We weren't developers. But what we did is we partnered with developers, and because we had secured the land, they wanted to partner with us. And, you know, we made the profit. So for me, it's all about, you know, number 2 is getting the knowledge. And you don't have to know everything yourself. You can get it by partnership. So a good example here that I wanted to share with you was, you know, what the 99% are doing. So over here, the 99% are uncertain, anxious, lack diversification, no passive income, and are financially stuck. And over here, you've got the top 1%, where they're diversified, they've got passive income, they've got financial freedom, they're a global citizen, you know, in terms of that whole process. And my wish for you today is that you choose to step over the chasm, and you go from the 99% over here, the mindset, and you take the action to get into the top 1%. And how do you do it? You do it through partnership. But you have a choice. And if you're going to travel, so just imagine you're traveling from Johannesburg to Cape Town if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, and you're traveling from London to Edinburgh if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. Well, if you're going to walk, then it's going to take you 13 days, okay, to get from Joburg to Cape Town. And if you want to go from London to Edinburgh, it's going to take you 6 days. If you want to drive, then it's going to take you 17 hours from Joburg to Cape Town. And if you want to drive from London to Edinburgh, it's going to take you 7 hours and 45 minutes. And if you want to fly from Joburg to Cape Town, it's going to take you 2 hours. And if you want to go from London to Edinburgh, it's going to take you 1 hour and 15 minutes. And what's really interesting when you look at these numbers is that if you take wealth as an example, most people are trying to do it on their own. They're trying to save money. So if you take the analogy of walking between 2 cities, you know, it's a lot cheaper. Okay, but the problem is you lose your opportunity cost. Okay, it takes a long time. And then every night you need to sleep somewhere. So you're either going to have to pay to stay in an Airbnb or a motel, or you're going to sleep under a bush. That can be uncomfortable. But the bottom line is you're trying to do it all yourself. You could get in a car that's a lot more efficient, a lot more effective, costs more money. Now you have to pay for the car, you have to pay for petrol, but you get there a lot quicker. Okay, but it still takes you 17 hours. Or you can get an airplane and you can rely on the pilot who knows what they're doing, and you get in the airplane and you can get from A to B a lot quicker in terms of the process. So the question I have for people is, do you want to accelerate? You know, are you walking at the moment? Are you lost going in no direction? Are you walking at the moment? Are you in a car, or are you on an airplane towards your freedom number in terms of where you want to get to? And you see, what I find really interesting is the poor exchange time for money and the rich exchange money for time. So exactly what I told you with Tony Robbins is that I invested in myself, and by investing in myself, I get there quicker, simpler, and safer. So I wanted to share with you something that we put together, which was a 90-day acceleration to freedom. So take you from where you are today and literally help you accelerate towards freedom. Would you like me to share it with you quickly? Because people have the analogy of, I don't know how, I don't have the knowledge. And I want to show you through partnership how at least you can stop walking. Like, you know, most people are trying to do it all on their own and have no idea. Now, I've offered you at the wealth hacker level, you can at least walk. Like you can go and do all the home study courses. You can come and meet us, on a weekly basis. But at the end of the day, you're still ostensibly trying to do it yourself. I'm offering you the opportunity to jump in the car now. So would you like to accelerate? Now I'll show you how to accelerate in terms of that process. So now that you've got a roadmap, the Wealth Accelerator is a guided experience to take you from where you are to your first global real estate investment in 30 days. We've taken everything that I'm taking you through this process and we built it into a single path, which we call the Wealth Accelerator. And it takes 90 days to accelerate to the freedom. There's 7 steps, and I want to take you through those 7 steps. But before I do, I just want to share with you, because last year in, I don't know, the middle of the year, roughly, I was at a live event and I met this gentleman, Camille, and he actually signed up to the Wealth Accelerator. And 3 months later, this was the video testimonial that he gave me. And the reason I want to play this for you is because it's real people. And if it can work for him, it can work for you.
I'm glad you put into context, because Success Resources, I saw a lot of programs on making money and earning additional income streams, but the need for actual wealth creation and wealth generation, but preservation and planning wasn't something that's widely spoken about on these type of platforms. So when you came up and offered...
Sorry, I just want to see, don't know why let me just start the video again.
I'm glad you put into context because success, making money and earning additional income streams, but the need for actual...
Sorry, just 2 seconds, guys. I don't know why let me just... Okay, I might have to play that for you later. I don't know why it's not playing properly. Boom, boom, boom. Why is that video not coming through? Okay, let's leave that. I will find that video for you and I'll play it properly for you. But for some reason, it's not playing. And I want you to be able to see the subtitles. Oh, what is going on? My whole laptop now is playing games with me. Okay, I'm telling you what. I'm just gonna restart my PowerPoint because it's playing games. Let me just restart it quickly. Sorry, 2 seconds. At least you know I'm doing this live. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. Sorry about this. I'll get day 3 open again for you quickly. So I'll try one last time. Let's see if it opens quickly. And if it plays, I'll play it. Otherwise, I'll get it for you during the tea break. Okay, let's try again.
I'm glad you put into context, because Success Resources, I saw a lot of programs on making money and earning additional income streams, but the need for actual wealth creation and wealth generation, but preservation and planning wasn't something that's widely spoken about on these type of platforms. So when you came up and offered advice, guidance, not only training, but also support, as well as a qualified team who are actually doing this for a living, so some of the most wealthiest families in the world, I couldn't help but agree to come and meet with you and join your... And I was just tired of going through people who assume that they're doing the best for you, but really it's more of their own selfish motive without really having the foresight of actually helping the client. So when I heard the philosophy and the ideology of what you're talking about, of how to do it in a way, to structure it where it not only makes sense for your client, that's tailor-made, individualized, lowers the risk, but do it with people who are actually doing it successfully, It was a no-brainer. I just said it. First, I'd like to say it was eye-opening. The type of information available to us on the global, I can certainly say is available nowhere else. I'm a voracious reader and a researcher, and I didn't find any of the information or the actual practical tips that I actually found in your Wealth Going Global. So when it came to studying it, it was eye-opening, and I couldn't wait for the next one. And what I really appreciate, Scott, and this is where I want to thank you and the Wealth Migrate team, is that not only were the lessons given in an easy-to-digest manner, it was backed up not only by video, audio, but also written materials that actually people can, no matter what their mode of learning, they could ingest it easily. Based on what you've helped us to learn, explore, and even investigate in our own lives and our own personalized investment plans and wealth creation and preservation plans, I trust myself a whole lot more. And even if I have an inkling of doubt that I don't trust myself, it's phenomenal that you and your multifamily office give us such support that at any point in time, you got us. You know, it was interesting that we heard earlier in this weekend that you said, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And you know, they say there's no romance without finance. But let me tell you something. I know it's abstract, but you can actually feel the love with your team and the Kelly office. You can feel the desire to help one another and to support one another. People who are willing to get into the trenches and lift you from where you are to where you actually want to be, in a way that's a win-win. So, no, I think it's absolutely amazing. We learn to trust ourselves. It's worth it. If you want to come along, change your life.
So that was good. Yeah. So just a matter of interest, who would like to show me quickly? Who would like me to show you quickly what the steps were that he went through over the 90 days? Who would like to see it? And by the way, do you enjoy these real people, real stories? Like I don't need to show you them. I've got hundreds of them, but do you enjoy them just so that you can kind of get a sense of what, you know, the type of journey you can go on in terms of, you know, your experience, where you're at. So, because I kind of get the choice. You've got two options here. The one is you can do it on your own, which is probably what you've been doing for the last couple of years or decades, or you can have a team doing it with you for you. Okay. So for me, this is really important. So let's look at what this Wealth Accelerator is all about. I can see the number of people that have asked just to understand it quickly, because I promised you that I would give you the theory over the 5 days, but I'd also give you a solution on how you could take it forward. So most investors are stuck because they're overexposed in one market. They've got no clear passive income roadmap. They're unsure how to access global assets. And today we're changing that. Your transformation literally starts here, because the Wealth Accelerator delivers a personalized roadmap. It's not a course. It's a roadmap to be able to get you the results to financial freedom. We're going to help you grow your wealth. We're going to help you protect your wealth. We're going to help you diversify globally. We're going to help you invest wisely. We're going to help you gain confidence and peace of mind. We're going to help you get passive income and freedom. And we're going to help you join the Wealth Accelerator family. Now, what is it all about? It's about investing like the top 1%. And I shared with you on Monday, how do you do that? Well, 20 years ago, it was very difficult. Nowadays, using technology, you can, because it cuts out the middleman, it cuts out the costs, and it dramatically increases the trust, the transparency, and the accessibility. We call it Wealth 5.0. And part of Wealth 5.0 is Diversification 5.0. And I've taken you through the formula of how to diversify. And so the choices we all have in our lives are you going to work for money, or are you going to get money working for you? Because we find the people that want to work with us are the people who want to get their money working for them. And see, the question is that the 99% are going to end up stuck, anxious, and reactive. But the top 1% are calm, strategic, and free. And it comes down to a number of shifts. There's 7 parts to this. So we call this the Wealth 5.0 blueprint. And there's 7 parts to this. So let's start off with belief. How do you actually deal with belief? Well, our philosophy is get you investing, and in 30 days, get you an income. So I can play you lots of testimonials of people that have literally got an income in 30 days. So we take you on a journey where literally in 30 days, we help you sign up, we help you complete your profile, we fund your wallet, help you fund your wallet, and you invest. We call it a payday. and literally it takes less than an hour a week. And, I tend to joke with people when it comes to Monopoly. If you remember, I showed you the Monopoly thing on Monday, but maybe this is your get out of jail free card. We give you, as part of the Wealth Accelerator, $100 to actually invest so that you can literally get going and you can invest in a building like this. Like, imagine being able to invest in New York, Manhattan, and take your $100 and get started in terms of the process. So that's the belief. The second part is the knowledge. Now, I've already shared with you what Wealth Going Global is all about. It's a 6-module course, and we literally take you through what is the clarity, how to choose the countries, how to choose the currencies, the assets, the partners, the plan, and then making it simple using technology. And what does Wealth Going Global give you? Well, a personalized roadmap and wealth strategy, clarity on what to do and in what order, the knowledge, the frameworks, and how to build the 1% and protect wealth, and a wealth plan to immediately help you so that you're not overwhelmed and wasted time. And you literally walk away with your wealth plan and your investor strategy sheet. And some of the bonuses we give as part of Wealth Going Global is that you get all of the cheat sheets, so the deal risk categories, the asset terminology, and many more. You get Clem Santa's, now that he's passed, this will literally be the last one he ever did in terms of the scenarios, the flags, and the probabilities. So that's all about the knowledge. Then we move on to the plan. And again, most people don't have a plan. So we actually run, so I do this every 3 months. You can either watch the recording if you want to get going like Joseph does, or if you want to wait for me live, the next one will be in April, where I literally do a Know the Numbers workshop. It's a 2-day workshop where I take you through the secret investor language, why employees and entrepreneurs often don't speak investor, the 4 key phrases and metrics that every investor uses, and how to shift your income mindset into your freedom mindset. Then we go through the Know Your Numbers. So this is all about control. So we build an investor dashboard with the 5 most important numbers that you need to track. We show you how to run your personal finances like a family office. We show you the common traps that are going to keep you stuck. We help you calculate your freedom number, and we help you design a plan to be able to get there. That's on day 1. On day 2, we then go from numbers to freedom. Now that you've got your numbers, how do you actually build a plan? How do you access the deals, and how do you build a system? We show you case studies, and most importantly, we help you build a roadmap, 30 days, 90 days, 365 days to ensure you succeed. We help you implement the 6 pillars of wealth. You're going to literally learn about them today. We help you build a portfolio, and we help you with the Freedom Formula workbook in terms of that process. And what does a wealth plan look like? Well, Anthony actually takes you from the family office. We don't do this today. We do that in the workshop, the Know Your Numbers workshop, where he literally shows you how to build a model. So all of the different components to how to build a model. And you walk away with your own personalized plan. And again, we do have a special with the Wealth Accelerator where people, you can have a 2-for-1, because often there's a husband and wife or friends or a business partner, and you want to do it together. There's a huge amount of value in doing it together with collaboration. The next thing is access. And this is where you get access to the deals. So, we did a data center deal. A number of people signed up to this exact program in September. And in October, we did a data center deal. It was one of the most incredible deals I've ever done with massive venture capital people, $4.8 billion being invested. One of the top companies out of Japan, top 20 companies out of Japan was investing $30 million. And we invested alongside them on the same terms. Self-storage, it's one of the best performing assets worldwide. We've got a deal coming down the pipeline. So you get access to these type of quality deals, and you get access to the system. So I've already shown you the system, but this is where you can go online, you can use the system, you've got the wallet infrastructure, the portfolio infrastructure, and everything in place. But how many people go out and they got a plan, they got access, and they got a system, but they don't have accountability? So that's where the Wealth Hackers comes in. You can see that we start to put these things together so they all make sense, because at the Wealth Hackers level, Alex and myself are holding people to account. And it's the accountability that is so important. And, this is what people had to say just about Alex is accountability. A couple of things here. The coaching and hand-holding we're receiving is actually priceless. You guys are so honest. Your network is your net worth. May I please agree, Alex, mind-blowing. I'll climb Kilimanjaro with him. Absolutely, the 30-day challenge was well worth it. If you can do it, anyone can do it. Passive income challenge changed my life and has put me on a wealthy mindset, etc., etc., etc. And then finally, under trust, you actually get to come and join us at a live event. So we do 2 live events a year. One is in March and one is in October this year. And this is where you actually come and you join us with our family office. So we get together with a group of like-minded, growth-minded people. And I've just got some pictures. This is the one we did in March 2024. This is the one we did in August 2024. This was March 2025. And even September 2025. So this year, there's one literally next month from the 18th to the 22nd of March. You can either come physically in Knysna. By the way, this is a picture taken from my boat. So these are real dolphins taken from my boat. And or you can come virtually. So we've got a virtual experience as well that you can join. And or you can come in to the event in October. There's nothing better than coming to a live event. Nowadays, everything's about online and digital. I've got a big fancy studio here, but there's nothing better than getting in a physical room. So why attend the Wealth Weekend? Well, it's immersion. You actually get to come with the family office. You're going to meet the family office today online, but at the Wealth Weekend, you meet them face to face. Next level learning and strategy, peer-to-peer masterminds, so you're amongst other people. And these aren't presentations, they're Q&As, they're basically panels. So for 2.5 days, we have panels with the right people. You get a global perspective plus local advantage, emotional and psychological wealth mastery. So we do a lot. So Karen is got over 20 years experience in the Enneagram and on resilience. And so what's really important is the emotional and psychological part of investing as well that we cover in detail. Tangible outcomes. So you don't just walk away with a plan and what's happening. And then also it's exclusive. So we keep it to a small group of people. It's a lot of fun. So we work hard, we play hard, and the reason we do it in Knysna, it's the top holiday destination in the country. If people from all over the world fly over, we've got people coming from America, we've got people coming from England and Europe, and I think one from Australia. And obviously they come and they benefit from it being in an incredible place and learning and having fun, and why we say it's where luxury meets legacy. But the single most important reason to be there is trust. You get to learn to trust yourself, you can trust your partners, you can trust your plan. And when you bring those 7 elements together, it's all about wealth, freedom, and legacy. So everyone that I meet eventually comes down, they want one of those things. They want wealth, freedom, and legacy, if not all 3. In terms of that process. So just to put together, what is the Wealth Accelerator all about? Well, in simple terms, you get the 30-day investor roadmap and the weekly accountability. You get the knowledge, so you get Wealth Going Global. You get the 2-day live virtual workshop, which is the Know Your Numbers. You get access to the priority deals. You get first access to the priority deals. You get exclusive access on the investment platform. You get accountability through the Wealth Hackers. You get an annual subscription to the Wealth Hackers. You get trust, so you get to come along to the Wealth Weekend in person. Now, by the way, that's worth over $10,000 if you compare it to what you would do around the world in terms of it. And you put the whole lot together, it's over $8,000 worth of value. And for me, the question I always say to people is, would you invest? Like, just take some time to think about this question. Would you invest $9,000 in yourself if all it did was help you achieve your freedom goal? So if you achieved your freedom goal, would you invest $9,000 to achieve your freedom goal? And would it be worth it to you? And just type in the chat box for me, yes or no. Like, would it be worth it to you if you knew that you could get your freedom goal? Would you invest $9,000 in yourself to achieve it? Because that's, for me, what's important here. The second question I'd have for you, if all this did was protect your wealth, so protect the money you've worked so hard for. I meet people all the time and they've worked hard for their money and all they want to do is protect it. Would it be worth $9,000 to protect your wealth? What about if it saved you a decade of time? That Tony Robbins thing, I spent $50,000 and it literally took my business and my revenue to a whole nother level. I 10x my business in 1 year. And if I didn't have go to that, if I had not invested $50,000, it would have probably taken me another decade. What about if you could save a decade? Would it be worth $9,000 for you and your family? And what about if all it did was give you globally diversified passive income, which for me is peace of mind? If all it did was give you that passive income and peace of mind, would it be worth $9,000 to you? Because what I'm trying to show you is that when you invest in yourself, you need to, when you take price, it goes off the table when you understand value and when you understand what you're getting and why this is so important to you. Now, the good news is that I'm not going to ask you to invest $9,000 in yourself. Even though I've invested a hell of a lot more, $50,000 with Tony Robbins, $40,000 with Richard Branson, $25,000 with Roger Hamilton. I'm not going to ask you to invest $9,000 because I like to believe in Zig Ziglar's principle that if I can help enough other people get what they want, then I can have anything I want. So if I can help you get passive income and freedom and legacy, then I can have passive income, freedom, and legacy. So I'm not going to ask you to invest $9,000. I'm not even going to ask you, and generally a program like this, a 90-day sprint program like this, would be $2,997. I'm not even going to ask you to invest that. Today, because you're committed and because you're part of this challenge, the Wealth Accelerator is literally $997. Now, this is what we offer only as part of this challenge. So you can see the link there. I'll go and let me just grab that. I'll go and grab that link for you quickly. I'll put it in the chat room. And Joseph, this is where you're asking the question. This is the 90-day acceleration program, which is what we call the Wealth Accelerator. And it bundles everything that I've already spoken about into one opportunity so that you can literally get started. You can join us at the Wealth Weekend and you can get the 90 days and you can achieve exactly what Camille did, where you're at a standing start today and you want to get significant momentum in terms of that process. And again, I remind you that included in that, we give you a $100 voucher and you can get access and literally start investing. A couple of other fast action bonuses. So I'll make these available for the week so that people will have the ability to participate this week in the Wealth Accelerator. But these are the fast action bonuses for the first 20 people that actually join us. The first is a wealth discovery call. So you get to sit down with one of our team members who understand what is it that you're wanting to achieve? Where are you at? What has prevented you from getting there? And what is the fastest way to help you get from A to B? That's worth $500. The second bonus, which is the one I'm most excited about in 2026, is I'm bringing out a ChatGPT Wealth Tools course. So this is all about accelerating. It's about doing less, so doing less and getting more, okay? I'm a big believer in this book, that 10X is easier than 2X. So I'm designing, and funny enough, I'm literally working on it as we speak with my business partner to put together an entire program where you can clone yourself. So let me show you just a quick little insight here. I don't know how much you do or don't use tech, but if I go into my tech here and I go into my ChatGPT and I basically go into my clone, I have my own clone. So if you go in and you literally look at my clone here, I can go through and you can see all of the different things. And I'm going to teach you literally how to do this in terms of your own clone. So if you open this up, you can see my entire clone. You can see all of the different projects. I've got my own personal clone. I've got my business clone. I've got my investment clone. And I'm going to teach you how to do this. And imagine having everything that we're talking about in your own pocket to be able to ask questions, to make decisions when it comes to your investment. Well, that's what this is all about. The value, $3,000. To be honest, once this is done, I'm sure it'll be a hell of a lot more. But for the people that join the Wealth Accelerator this week, I will throw that in included. You're going to get access to all our calculators. So our global property system, our global wealth index, our freedom calculator, and the ROI, which also has a value. You've got the weekly sessions with me. It's quite hard to decide on a value there. You know, Harvard says if you've got a coach, you 400% put it off. You know, I charge $1,000 an hour. So I don't know, you can add any value you want to it. But, you know, by logic, if I'm available sort of 50 weeks a year, that's worth over $50,000 in terms of that value. And then finally, I always like to create an incentive. So once someone gets to $10,000 or more in passive income, then and or portfolio growth, then we invite them to a private dinner at my house and a boat ride. And yeah, that's just a picture of me on my boat in Nisen at the Heads. And that's aspirational. That's to, you know, get people, you know, there, you know, as an aspirational thing in terms of the process. So we, you know, I can't guarantee you'll take action, but I can guarantee that if you follow the process, you'll get results in terms of it. And so we actually, you know, as long as people follow the process, we actually guarantee the results in terms of it. So that's everything you get at the Wealth Accelerator. There's over $8,000 of value. I remind you, you get the belief. So remember, there's 7 steps. So you get the belief, You get the knowledge, you get the plan, you get access to the deals, you get the system, you get the accountability, and you get the trust. And then as a bonus, you get the wealth discovery session, you get the ChatGPT course included, you get the calculators, you get the wealth weekly sessions, and you get the Freedom Dinner invite. You put it all together, it's worth over $60,000. And, for me, as part of the Wealth Accelerator, as I've already shown you, it's $997, which is what we're offering for people as part of this. So the question I have for you, and again, I wanted to help people remove the blockages. Remember, some people say I don't have the money. Well, I showed you when I invested myself with Tony Robbins, how I incrementally and exponentially changed that. People say I don't have the knowledge. Well, I'm literally showing you how you can go on a 90-day journey. And the choice is, when it comes to the knowledge, you can get started and you can walk with the Wealth Accelerator, which is great. I mean, it's probably better than you're doing right now. You'll get access to the Netflix of courses, home study courses, and you can get started. Or you can get in a car and you can accelerate. You can go a lot faster. And I'm going to pivot into teaching you the asset allocation with the family office. But once we finish with the family office today, right at the end, I'll share with you how you can jump in the aeroplane if you would like, and how you can fly from destination to destination. The question I have for you, and the question I ask you to ask yourself all day, today and tomorrow and Friday, is do you want to accelerate to the freedom zone? And if so, do you want to walk there? Do you want to drive there? Or do you want to fly there? So do me a favor, type in the chat box quickly. Do you want to walk? Do you want to drive, or do you want to fly? And just like when you go from Joburg to Cape Town or London to Edinburgh, some people choose to walk, and some people choose to drive, and some people choose to fly, and people get to choose. And so I promised you that this week I will give you opportunity to decide whatever's best for you. You can walk, you can drive, or you can fly. But my wish for you is that you all get to the freedom zone as quickly as possible in terms of that process. So that's where we're at. Let's pivot and go into this today in terms of asset allocation. I'm not going to be giving you financial advice, and neither are my family office, because obviously we're sharing the knowledge today. They are fully licensed to provide you with financial advice, but they would need to sit down with you one-to-one to be able to give you the best opportunity in terms of what is right for you and your family, because obviously everyone is slightly different. So let's go straight into day 3 about asset allocation. And when you're looking at diversifying across countries, currencies, assets, partners, and time, you need to look at asset allocation and how you actually build your portfolio. So this is really, really important. And there's lots of people out there. This is from a guy called Mark, who's a good friend of mine from International Academy of Wealth. And he calls it the wealth pyramid. And you can see on the left-hand side, you've got the returns. And on the right-hand side, you've got the how long the assets last for. Ann Wilson, who I introduced you to yesterday, she also talks about the wealth pyramid. By the way, the pyramid's the strongest structure built by man. And so you always want to have your assets built in sort of a pyramid where you've got kind of low risk assets, very foundational assets, but they take much longer. They've got lower returns. And then you build them up over time to more active assets, to more risky assets, that where you can get in and out a lot quicker, but ultimately the returns are higher, but so is the risk. Now, people always say to me, well, Scott, how do I do this? How do I do this for myself? And my logic is, you can kind of go on all the courses and try and do it and figure it all out yourself, or you can copy what the wealthiest people are doing. So there's a report that comes out every year from Knight Franks, which is called the Wealth Report. And in this report, they interview roughly 580,000 of the wealthiest people in the world and all their family offices. Again, family offices look after the wealthiest people in the world. And I had the privilege of actually interviewing the lady that put this report together. So for our mastermind, we interviewed the lady that put this report together. They do it every single year, and she ran this report for Knight Frank for over 10 years in terms of it. And what was really, really fascinating is when you look at their portfolio makeup, they break down what are the 580,000 wealthiest people in the world doing. Now, can we agree, and just type in the chat box yes or no, can we agree that if the 580,000 wealthiest people in the world are allocating their portfolios like this, that we should probably be copying them, yes or no? So just do me a favor, like, would you agree that if they're doing it like that, there's a good chance that we should be doing the same? And what's really interesting to me is that very often we're being told by a financial advisor to do something completely different. Now, we had a conversation with this in the VIP session yesterday, and I have a belief system with this. And the reason that the financial advisor is telling you to do something else is because they haven't found a way to make money out of you. So when you buy gold or private equity or property, they don't know how to make money out of you. But when you invest in the stock market in a pension plan, they make money out of you. So that is the reason. So let's just look here. So this is their breakdown of their portfolio. So their primary homes or secondary homes is 32%. Okay, so that's in the primary market. Okay, equities, which is in the stock market, is 26%. Commercial property is 21%, but it's direct property. Bonds, 17%. Private equity, 9%. Commercial property through funds, 8%. Other, 7%. Commercial property indirectly through REITs, real estate investment trusts, 5%. Investments in passion, art, cars, wine, 5%. Gold, 3%. Crypto, 2%. Now, what's really interesting, if you look at alternative assets here, or primary market, 32% plus 21%, so we're up to 53%, plus private equity, 62%, plus other, 69%, plus passion, 74%, plus gold, 77%, plus crypto, 2%, 79%. Can you see that we're sitting at a significant portion, over 50%, is in the primary markets? Don't you find that fascinating? Somewhere between 60 and 70% of their assets are invested in the primary markets. And yet the question I have for you is, how much of your investments are in the primary markets? We learned about primary markets yesterday compared to secondary markets. Now, I did an interesting thing here, and there's the total calculation. 72% in primary and 28% in secondary. That's the 580,000 wealthiest people in the world. Now, I went and updated the research. So one of our mastermind members, a gentleman called Alan, said, well, Scott, okay, that's great, but what about the latest research out there? And how would I structure my portfolio based on the different age groups? So I went and did the research for them. And again, as part of the Wealth Hackers, you'll get access to this. So if you go to the transformation pack and you go down to here, so let me just, I need to find it for you. Okay, so under core wealth principles, you got what school never taught you, the foundations for financial freedom, the wealth game, ROI, so that's the investor language, diversification, nope, so it's not there. The 6 passive income traps from burnout, the psychology of money, so no, it's not there. The investment vehicles, how to know where to move your money, no. London investing, private equity, nope, it's not that one, must be under advanced mastery. Here, well, how to structure your portfolio, cheat sheet. So we go to the cheat sheet here. So anyone that's signs up to the Wealth Hackers and or the Wealth Accelerator will get access to this. So I went and did the research based on all the historical trends over the last 50 years. And we took everything: risk tolerance, liquidity, income requirements, inflation, capital preservation, legacy planning. We've got all the different asset classes. We just explained what they are again: private equity, crypto, commercial, bonds, etc. And then what it did is it broke down in your 20s, what should your balance be? In your 30s, what should your balance be? In your 40s, in your 50s, in your 60s, in your 70s, and in your 80s. It then had a table with the breakdown. And then finally, it had a heat map as to what you should be doing based on your age. Now, again, there is a notice here. This is not financial advice. This is based on 50-year trends and on market norms, but obviously it gets interesting at an individual age. So who would like to get access to a document like this? This is how to structure your portfolio, a cheat sheet. So my logic is I always, and this is why people that come on the journey with me, whether you choose to walk at the Wealth Hackers, whether you choose to, jump in the car at the Wealth Accelerator, or if you choose to join the mastermind and jump in the airplane, I'm constantly looking to bring together these type of tools to help you make life useful. Just tell me, is this useful? Sorry, I'm interested in people's opinions. where you can literally break down your portfolio planning based on your age. So this is based on market norms, the best information out there, 50-year trends. It's maybe not perfect specifically for you, but can you see how it at least gives you a framework and a balance that if you were 60 years old, you would sit with your financial planner and you'd say, right, am I balanced like this? Yes or no? And the chances are, I mean, you got, at 60, you should have 18% in equities. Well, chances are, I guarantee you got a hell of a lot more than that in terms of the process. So I want to pivot now into what a family office is. And this is for me where it gets super, super exciting, because now you're going to literally understand what the wealthiest people in the world are doing. I promised you I'd give you tools all the way through. So I've already given you tools in terms of where to find that portfolio, etc. And you can see all the other tools that are in there as part of the Wealth Hackers. But a family office, who doesn't know what a family office is? I want to go into that quickly. Who doesn't know what a family office is? I know we explained it at the VIP level, but I can't remember if I explained it at the general level. Anyone? Come on, guys. Ladies, do you understand what a family office is? Yes or no? Okay, so there's a couple of people who don't. So this is from Investopedia. A family office is a private wealth management firm established by ultra-high net worth family that provides the family with a selection of personalized services that include investment management, financial planning, estate and tax planning, philanthropic investing, and concierge services. In the old days, traditionally, to set up a family office was only available for the extremely wealthy. Complex financial investment and personal needs usually require one. One estimate is that individuals need a net worth of 250 million. So that's what it used to be. And then what happened is you got multi-family offices where you generally needed sort of $10 million or more. And now the exciting thing is what I'm going to share with you today is with technology, you can now get access to a family office with $10,000, $150,000, 200,000 Rand, and you can actually get access to a family office and you can participate in the process in terms of where we're at. So I want to play you a quick little video. And this is Garth and Anthony. It's the first time you're going to meet them. And this is a video where they were talking about portfolio construction. So everything we're talking about today, asset allocation and portfolio construction. And this is what they had to say.
This doesn't change, guys. Asset allocation, and this is not all of the asset classes we work with, but asset allocation is going to account for 85% of your return and is the fundamental building blocks of asset management and a financial plan that's going to produce income or anything. But Anthony's going to talk to this, and this will give you very specific kind of views around the returns, the averages, and where we think the value lies.
So who would like to see a quick video? It's an interview that I did with Garth, because that's Garth, 85% of your long-term returns. Who would like me to play a quick video that explains the difference between a family office and a financial planner? Because most of us that's what we taught. We go along, we see a financial planner. By the way, most of us are in the 99%, and most of us get the results of the 99%. So would you like me to play you a quick video? So let me play you this quick video that just explains what a family office is. And then after I've done that, I'm going to introduce you to Anthony. And Anthony is going to take you through the 6 pillars to wealth that they deal with every single client, helping their clients, their family office clients, to invest. And if those 6 pillars to wealth are what they use for their family office, can we agree that it would be good for you to know those 6 pillars to wealth? Okay, here's Garth.
The family office is typically a full financial management of a high net worth individual's affairs. Typically, a wealthy person would set up a family office to administer everything in-house. You would bring in, legal attorneys, private equity, and construct a full suite of investment services, from offshore structuring to offshore legal advice. So we set up a family office to be an outsourced full financial services provider outside of the scope of just investment management. And that's what we brought to the table. And we realized that we wouldn't do that for a single family. And that was where we said we became a multi-family office. Our services were well outside of the scope of what a financial planner would do.
Well, talk to us a little bit about that, because most people, including me, only really understand a financial planner or / an investment bank. Maybe You've been invited to the private banking of investment banking, etc. What is the difference?
Oh, look, a financial planner is one service of probably 15 or 20 that a family office does. A financial planner effectively looks at a person's wealth preservation or their wealth creation. He goes, how do I create more wealth if a person hasn't yet got sufficient wealth? And he goes to the typical listed market space. And if he works for an institution, he goes to his employer's institution and offers their products as a solution to create wealth. The more sophisticated financial planner is the one that's working with the high net worth and saying, well, here's how we can preserve wealth. And that preservation of wealth then comes in the form again of the same financial products, sometimes slightly more sophisticated, a little bit more on the offshore side. He's not often involved in the actual legal structuring, and that is just outsourced by the bank to alternative companies. So very little of what a sophisticated financial planner does really goes into him being involved in the taxation, the immigration, the international tax planning, international business, corporate advisory, resolving tax issues, staying current. So I think a financial advisor is largely connected to creating wealth and using listed investments, and protecting wealth using listed investments, which is just one very small part of what a family office really does and is capable of doing with in-house services.
If you're working with some of the wealthiest families, around the world, why would you work with me? What's the reason for that?
Yeah, Scott, I've said it before. You can build scalable businesses, and I'm both a financial person and an entrepreneur. But what I started picking up is I don't think good advice should be the domain of just the super wealthy. Okay. And one of the greatest problems the world faces is wealth disparity. Where 99% of the wealth is held in 1% of the world's population hands. And we know that's one of the biggest problems that has to change. But the same with advice. The wealthier you are, the higher the quality of the advice, the more access you have to deals, the more access you have to create more wealth. So, in our universe, we want to create opportunities for a much broader, much more scalable suite of wealth and investors, for example. So I really want to see people that are hungry to learn. So for me, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, if we can teach the secrets of that 1% to 25, 30% more people, we create a much more sustainable world and a much more sustainable economy. So yeah, I think that's where you and I have worked really well together is to create scalable but high-end information being accessible to other people rather than just the 1%. Yeah. And also, with the 65 clients we have, 70 clients, it grows all the time, I haven't counted, families that we have, so much opportunity exists within that for us to spread that opportunity and create a real symbiotic environment for wealth creation and transfer of knowledge. Wonderful, Scott. Thank you for that. And yeah, it's been a great journey, and it's always so rewarding to hear compliments from your clients. And yeah, long may we continue to, teach and grow people.
So that's Garth. And I wanted to share with you here quickly. Let's just go back to my screen. So what I want to share with you now is a recording that I did with Anthony a month ago, actually. And it's all about the portfolio construction, and it's 85% of your returns. And he's going to take us through the 6 pillars to wealth. So time horizon, risk tolerance, asset allocation, diversification, personal outcomes, goals, monitor, measure, and rebalance. So what I want to do is I'm really on purpose doing this so that you've got access to the family office. Like, you're going to learn from what they're doing. And again, everything I've been trying to teach you over this period is mastery. Okay, so again, if the wealthiest people are doing it, well, the chances are if you copy them, the chances are you're going to get the same results. And then what I'll do after the session is that I'm going to show you how you can partner with the family office. So if you want to get in the airplane and fly, I'm going to actually show you how you can partner, and you'll be amazed at how affordable it actually is to be able to partner. So one of the things that I'm proudest of is that Garth and I built a solution in the middle of 2022, and we've now taken roughly 140 families through the solution in terms of partnering with the family office. So that's outside of their original 65 families. We've taken 140 families from everywhere, all walks of life. So from South Africa, Lesotho, Swaziland, Zambia, Australia, New Zealand, America, England, all over Europe, Italy, Spain, Portugal, Sweden, Netherlands, Germany. I had someone yesterday out of Mexico, United UAE, Saudi Arabia, etc. We've had teachers, we've had plumbers, we've had farmers, we've had accountants, we've had business owners, we've had corporate employees, we've had men and women. So all different walks of life. It's interesting. The average age for women is 57 and for men is 59. So it tends to be people that really kind of want their money to work for them now. They want to have a proper plan. But I mean, the youngest is 35. The oldest is 85. So, we've got, and it's just the most incredible group of people that I am truly, truly grateful for. And I will share with you once you've learned from the family office, because I promised you that you'd come here today, even if you're part of the general ticket and it's free. I promised you that you would get the theory, and I'm giving you the theory, and you get to choose if you want to do it on your own. But I'm also promised you that I would show you how to partner if you wanted to partner properly. So let me share this video with you. I will be here if you want to answer any questions or ask any questions, but I wanted to share with you this video in terms of the process. Now, this video is a little bit longer. So for me, what's important here is today's session is probably the longest of all the sessions, because I really want you to get the value. I don't want to cut things short. I could send you this recording and you go watch it yourself. The chances are you won't watch it. So let's do it live now together. Enjoy. And ask any questions and give me your comments while we're going through this. Anthony, I saw you join the room. I am ready for you when you are ready.
I'm here. I'm next to you on my screen. I don't know where I am on your screen.
Excuse me. Sorry, Scott, I've got a question, please.
Okay, can we keep it very quick? We can do questions later, but let's just very quickly, but I want to pivot to Anthony. So let's go quickly.
Yeah, it is with regards to what Richard was actually asking, and I think also Nosi touched on it. So when you talk about, you can't guide now because you have to look at the numbers. Do you mean that, we have to look at what the calculator says and look at unpacking all your detail about your life, your financial life, and then from there we make a decision? Is that what you're referring to when you're saying we need to look at the numbers? We need to see where you're at.
100%.
Okay.
Look, Anthony,
Thank you.
it's a great question and pivots directly into what Anthony's about to share. And just by the way, I know Marina's here. Anthony, Marina spoke very highly of you this morning and everything. And the point being is that what she said to everyone is that it's about getting the data first. And once you've got the data, you can make the right decisions. And if you don't have the data, you're kind of caught in drama. It's a lovely, I think I might turn that into a bumper sticker, Marina. It's brilliant. But I think my point being is that's exactly why Anthony's joined us. I do want to say, Anthony, especially sort of, they've got a weekend away and everything, and he's managed to come through and help us and be alive. So I really, really appreciate it, Anthony. It's been fantastic. We've had nice energy and a good group of people here. But what we've been doing, Anthony, and just to give you an analogy so that because you and I have spoken about this, is that we've been talking about if you're on a journey, and if you're going from Joburg to Cape Town, or if you're going from London to Edinburgh, if you walked, it would take you sort of 13 days to walk from Joburg to Cape Town. And many people financially are walking. If you drove, it would take you 17 hours. And if you flew, it would take you kind of 2 hours. To the metaphor, basically. And so what we've basically been saying is that, you were going to come and join us this afternoon, and people could get to experience not only the modeling and how you do it and portfolio construction. And, I had a hat here for a bit of fun. Where's it gone now? And it's one of those welcome aboard the airplane and actually, see what's happening at the top 1%. So without further ado, I want to shut up because we want to listen and learn from you. But I deeply appreciate you being here. Thank you very much. And over to you.
Absolute pleasure, Scott. Thank you for having me, and hello, guys. Good to be here. Let me dive straight into it. I think there was actually a number of questions there that I would perhaps cover in this presentation. I think one of my key answers to what sounded like the question from Ali was everyone's different. There's no one size fits all. These are all completely personalized blueprints to you and what you are trying to achieve. Not everyone is the same, and therefore our objectives and our outcomes are not the same. Let me share my screen. Alrighty. Can you guys see that? Is that all good?
Yep.
Yes, we
Yeah,
can.
we got it. Yeah, we got it. Yeah.
Cool. Alrighty, so we're going to touch on, we've got 2 sessions coming up. The first is essentially portfolio construction. There's many different ways to phrase something like this. The title of this presentation is Crafting Your Own Personal Diversification Blueprint, as well as practical exercises to identify gaps and opportunities in your portfolio. A summarized version of that would really be portfolio construction and how we go about achieving that. Jumping to the next page, some kind of key topics that I would like to cover within this presentation. There are 6 of them. When we're looking at financial considerations, how we look to identify gaps and opportunities in your current investment portfolio. The first objective, or the first point to understand, is your investment time horizon. The longer, in general, the longer the time horizon, i.e. 5 years or longer, the more risk that you're able to take within your investment portfolio. You're able to target the higher returns because of that increased risk profile. But if you have a shorter term time horizon, you've got shorter term goals or objectives under 5 years, in general, you want to be taking less risk on that capital. It's important that we look at rebalancing the portfolio to meet your risk tolerance. We let this be driven by your time horizon and objectives. We also acknowledge emotions, but don't let this be the primary driver of portfolio construction. Very easy to get caught up in headline hype. You read a lot of stuff, you think the world's coming to an end, and that can have an impact on how you're constructing your portfolio. The third topic we'll cover is the asset allocation review, just getting an understanding as to how the portfolio is positioned. So we understand how you are currently positioned and determine whether this is adequate for what you are trying to achieve. We'll then look at the diversification in the context of what you're trying to achieve. It's important to assess industry and sector exposure, check for geographic diversification, evaluate your risk versus your return, and considering alternative uncorrelated investments. The fifth topic is always ensuring that this is tied to your personal objectives. And lastly, we will touch on ways or what you need to do in terms of monitoring and tracking the performance of your portfolio. It's crucial to monitor these things, measure these things, and rebalance the portfolio if necessary. You cannot stay in the same sectors and asset classes forever. You would need to rebalance these at some point, and we look to find tools to help with this. Alrighty, next page just summarizes that. So essentially those 6 points: time horizon, risk tolerance, asset allocation, diversification, personal outcome or goals, monitor, measure, and rebalance. In summary, there are multiple steps that need to be applied and understood before one can identify opportunities in their portfolio. This is not one of those things where you just throw a whole bunch of things together and all of a sudden you have the perfect portfolio. There's multiple layers and levels one needs to understand, and then we can tie that all together into portfolio construction and a personalized wealth plan. On the right hand side, we've got a triangle. That triangle is something that we focus quite a lot. Scott knows that triangle very well, and ultimately that ties together 3 different focus points. and that's portfolio construction. The life aim, which is an asset income model. I will dive into a lot of detail around that in the coming minutes, as well as wealth EQ. That's giving you a better understanding of yourself and how you make decisions. When you typically blend those three points together, one can start to develop that personalized wealth plan. That's what we need to kind of tie everything together to build a future wealth plan. Alrighty, section 1, the investment time horizon. Within the time horizon, it's important to understand your current situation relative to where you want to be, right? If I am saving for a short-term objective, kids need to go to school next year, I need to buy a house, I need to put a down payment on a house, I need to buy a car, I need to save up to buy a house in 3 or 4 years' time. It's a very different objective to saving and creating a portfolio for retirement, right? The one is a shorter term objective and the other is a much longer term objective, i.e. under 5 years and over 5 years. It's important to have that understanding, because without it, you could find yourself allocating to the incorrect investments that have too high of a risk profile, investments that could potentially draw down in that period, and all of a sudden you're reliant on money that has decreased in value, and you're forced to withdraw it because you have that upcoming expense, as opposed to a longer term investment portfolio where you can see out market cycles and volatility events. So very, very important to have that understanding. In this section, we look at the life asset income model. Again, I'm going to touch on that shortly. The abbreviated word for that is AIM. We refer to that as a life aim, and again, that stands for our asset income model. I will touch on that shortly. And then it's important to define the parameters of the life aim. Again, these things work on inputs, and it's important to make sure that we completely understand the inputs that we're giving the model, that those inputs are accurate, and as a result of that, we can trust the information that the model spits out, right? If you're not putting in good information, if you're not putting in accurate information, you're going to get poor results. So you always want to refine that and make sure it is as accurate as possible. Let's look at an example of the life asset income model. Again, as I said earlier, the second part of this session is a behind the scenes look at as to how we construct these things, and I think that will give you a lot more context around what I'm saying. So if you miss some of the key points now, don't stress, we will be going back to it. I don't want to spend too much of this session diving into these details, because we will focus on it quite a bit. Now, the life asset income model, as the name suggests, you are looking to understand your asset base relative to some kind of future income requirement, right? So that asset base is going to be responsible for creating your income in the future, and it's important we understand how that could potentially play out. This is not the be all and end all of portfolio construction, but it is an incredibly important first step so that you can understand exactly what you're trying to achieve. Without this blueprint, without this compass, it becomes very hard to start constructing portfolios and doing the financial planning element of these things. You don't have that blueprint. You don't know where you're going. You don't know what you're trying to achieve. This step allows you to understand exactly what you need to do with your money, what you need to target and what you need to achieve on your money, so that it then ties together with the portfolio construction, and you can immediately start looking at some investments and saying, those are right for me because they tick the boxes on what I need to achieve. Alternatively, you could also look at another investment and you could say to yourself, you know what, that doesn't suit what I'm trying to achieve because of X, Y, Z reason. All right, so it's a very important blueprint as to how you invest your money and how you construct your portfolios. Looking at some of the inputs there, I'm on the bottom of the page under the input section. We look at things like your current age. We understand the annual income that you are trying to produce. This is not necessarily your income at the moment, but it is a number that you would like to live off or derive from your portfolio in retirement. We understand inflation and the effects that has on income. We're always planning for inflation because we understand that we want to ensure that one's purchasing power over time remains the same in today's terms. If we don't account for inflation, you might find yourself 20, 30 years down the road, and 1 million units doesn't even get you a loaf of bread and milk. The chart here has everything in rand, which will make sense for the South Africans on the call. For the international guys on the call, don't worry, my next example will be in dollars, but I think it's more important to get the theory behind it as opposed to worrying about the currency and what currency we're in. The retirement saving balance looks at your current capital. The annual savings amount is the amount that you are saving between now and retirement. If you were to be stepping that savings value up, we would put a percentage in the annual savings increase column. And then importantly, we're assuming some kind of investment return. In this example, we assume a 7% investment return. What I would like to remind you is that this return is a real return. In other words, we have deducted inflation off the return. So in nominal terms, you would need to be achieving a return of 10% per annum to have a real return of 7%, assuming that inflation is at 3%. All right. Another important characteristic. Why? Because when we jump to the next slide, you'll see how this plays out over a period of time. And if we don't deduct inflation from that return assumption, you get this ballooning effect on your balance sheet. The numbers look incredibly rosy as time goes on, but you can't associate that with purchasing power in today's terms, right? So we try and keep everything as accurate as possible in terms of adjusting for inflation. You don't want to be looking at numbers in 20 years down the line and you kind of trying to work out what 3% inflation off that each year would actually look like. So we keep everything after inflation so that you can associate it with today's level of purchasing power. The other thing we look at is our desired retirement age. So in other words, at what age are you retiring? It doesn't have to be the literal sense of the word retirement, but it is ultimately that inflection point where you are no longer in a position to make contributions to your portfolio, or at the very least are not withdrawing from your portfolio. It's that point in time where you now need your portfolio to start producing income for you, right? It's that inflection point where you've saved up your whole life, you've contributed to your investments. Now it's time for those investments to pay dividends and to start providing you with an income. All right. You'll see that in the chart at the top. You can see our orange is our period of time between our current age, which in this assumption is age 50. So Mr. X or Joe Soap is age 50. He plans to retire at 65. And you can see that there, age 50 to age 65 in the orange line of the chart, it's going upwards. He's not drawing an income down from this portfolio. He's making his contributions every year. He's accumulating wealth over the next 15 years. And then it switches to a point where he now needs to derive an income from this portfolio. That is at that age 65 retirement date. Again, I'm going to show you the actual numbers in the next page, and you'll see how this unfolds over time on a year-for-year basis. And we will get into the mechanics of this and a more in-depth explanation a little bit later. So if some of that went over your head, don't worry. I'm purposely not focusing on it for too long. And then in the far right-hand side, Very, very interesting, very important component of this is a level of uncertainty. So in this example, we've set uncertainty at 1%. It's an uncertainty on our return assumption of 7%. And basically what we're saying here is what happens if one achieves a return of 1% higher than the 7%, i.e. 8% per annum, or if one does not achieve the 7% and instead achieves a 1% underperformance of 6% per annum. What does that look like over the future? And you can see this dispersion here, the gray shaded area around this black line. Black line is the example, so everything plays out as we've said below, and then the gray shaded area beneath the black line would be a 1% underperformance, and the gray shaded area above the black line would be a 1% overperformance. It is a massive difference, right? That 1% compounded over the lifetime of Mr. X. It is a very big difference over time. You can see in the black scenario, the black line scenario, you've got sustainability up until age 98. You can see that this is essentially showing you the depletion of capital, money runs out. And in the underperform scenario, you can see you still get sustainability up until around age 91, and then capital depletes, whereas a 1% overperformance, you get a huge surplus capital at age 99. The last point I want to mention here is this line item over here. Our number of years of retirement income is set at 35. What does that mean? It means that we are purposefully trying to create a scenario in which assets are sustained or income is sustained up until age 99. We are purposefully trying to make sure that there is no depletion of capital over that period. We do this for two reasons. Firstly, as the primary breadwinner, we want to make sure that Mr. or Mrs. X is looked after and they do not run out of money in their lifetime. But we also understand that 99 is considered quite old. Most people don't make it to 99. Modern medicine is getting good, so we want to ensure that people can make it to 99 if they do get there. However, it also incorporates that element of legacy. It assumes that if we planned up until those later years, should anything happen to Mr. X prior to age 99, the beneficiaries to Mr. X will naturally have some kind of inheritance. There will be some kind of legacy component left over that can be handed down. So you're essentially you're ticking two boxes by planning till the later years. The next slide looks at how this unfolds on a year-for-year basis, how we get the data that gives us that chart at the top. That chart is a really nice summary, but for those who like to understand what this looks like on a year-for-year basis, this becomes quite important. You can see that at age 50, he started with a balance of 8 million rand. At that 8 million, we assumed that it would grow at 7% per annum. That growth is the 560 that you show there. And very importantly, there were no withdrawals throughout this process. Remember, we only made the assumption that Mr. X was going to retire at age 65, and it was at that point where the withdrawals would kick in and he would start to derive an income from the portfolio. His strategy from age 50 to age 65 is going to be one of compounding and growing capital as aggressively as possible, so that when he retires, that capital value has increased and it can now start to provide him with an income going into retirement. What we don't show here, and what we did discuss, and some of you might be looking at this closing value and adding the 8 million with the 560, but realizing there is a shortfall. Remember, we did make the assumption over here at the bottom that Mr. X was contributing 250,000 rand per annum to his investments. And again, that assumption runs from now up until retirement. Obviously, once you retire, There's no more other sources of income, i.e. employment coming through the door. You now need to stop contributing to your investments and instead rely on your investments for that income. So that's why you see that uptick. But really what you see here over the next 15 years, you see quite an aggressive compounding of capital over that period. And then you see that inflection point where the withdrawals start to kick in against the portfolio, and you're now starting to derive that income from the portfolio. You will notice that we assumed this income would be R1,000,000, but it has grown significantly to 1,557,000. That is because of our inflation assumption. And again, we're making sure that each year that income grows by inflation so that the purchasing power in today's terms of 1 million is held throughout, is held going forward up until age 99. We have to increase each year by inflation, or one typically gets caught on the wrong side of inflation, and it can be a case of just not having enough money to live off. Jumping to the next slide, you'll see how this kind of unfolds over time. You reach this point, you reach a point where you kind of you have maximum capital. So it starts to increase even though you are making withdrawals against the portfolio. You can see here, probably around here, age 76, if you look at this line where my cursor is, you can see that capital balance kind of peaks at 31.67 million. And then the effects of this compounding income requirement start to erode the capital balance, and that is essentially the point in the chart, kind of somewhere around here where it kind of gradually increases and it then starts to taper off as you go over. Again, this is not going to be everyone's situation, right? I can't stress that enough. This is just a completely random example of Mr. X. Everyone will have their own unique situation. Everyone will have their own unique inputs and objectives that they're trying to achieve. And everyone's asset income model will look very different. And then you can see kind of running all the way up until age 99. 99, it actually goes negative. So the conclusion on my side would be that this portfolio should be sustainable up until age 99, up until age 98, and it will deplete during Mr. X's 99th year. We can either massage the numbers and we can try and create an outcome where we do get that full sustainability up until age 99, or Mr. X can say, you know what, I'm happy with this, and this for me is exactly where I want to go. We'll discuss it just now, but there will be certain pushes and pulls in terms of you would need to ultimately give up something in order to create more sustainability, and that giving up is typically in the form of income, or alternatively one would need to contribute more whilst they're still in a position to contribute. They would need to target slightly higher returns. All of those different things have an impact on the life aim. Again, we will dive into that in more detail, and we'll run some other examples so you can see how that plays out on a live basis.
Okay,
right.
Anthony, can I just come in here a minute?
That sounds like Alan. Scott, I don't know.
Yes.
Alan, if you wouldn't mind, let's run through the presentation, please, and then we'll come to it then, because we want to keep with the consistency of the 6 modules.
Okay, fine, because they're just critical stuff that we need to understand here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
What I can also suggest on that is when we do the live building of this, we can chat through those potential examples. All right. Number 2, section 2, is rebalancing the portfolio to meet your risk tolerance. Like we said earlier, let this be driven by your time horizon and objectives. Acknowledge emotions, but don't let this be the primary driver of portfolio construction. When I spoke about time horizon earlier, it's crucial. The reason why we say that you can take more risk if your investment horizon is longer than 5 years is because the average market cycle is roughly 5 to 7 years. I'm going to share a chart after this where it's actually decreased somewhat, but I think to edge on the side of caution, if you can kind of keep that average market cycle in your mind of 5 to 7 years, you know that you're not committing capital to something that, should you need it prior to that, could be in a capital loss situation, right? We can look at this chart here to kind of explain it, or to kind of see how that plays out. Assume that this period is 5 to 7 years. Perhaps this recession or this trough in the market, or a bear market, whatever you want to call it, occurs when you actually need this capital, right? You're an equity investor. You put this capital that you need to put a deposit on your house, or buy a car or something, into equity markets, and all of a sudden markets go into a bear market. You could find yourself in a position where you are now forced to take that money out of the market in a negative, in a capital loss position, and use that for the expense that you need it for. The point is, you don't even want to put yourself in a situation like that unless you have the adequate time horizon to see out a full market cycle. All right. Equity markets, the higher risk asset classes, are very good for long-term wealth creation, but should not be used as a short-term tool to save for something under 5 years, because you can get on the wrong side of it. You can also get it right. I acknowledge that. And some people are able to identify that. They're lucky enough to be in a period where they invest for 1 year, markets go up over that year, and everything is plain sailing. But I would urge you to kind of rather stay on the side of caution, where you're committing capital to an asset class for a particular reason and for a particular time period. It's incredibly, incredibly important. As I said, market cycles are typically 5 to 7 years. And again, personal goals play a large role in determining the level of risk you can take. That's all filtering back to time horizon and the level of risk you're taking on your capital. For those that don't understand the definition of risk, I put it here as the potential for harm or financial loss. And then secondly, for those who don't understand the risk-return trade-off, that is the chart on the bottom right. And in most scenarios, the higher the risk that you take, the higher the potential return, and the lower the risk, the lower the return. Again, just making sure that you're committing capital to the right sections of the market, or to the right asset classes, to achieve the objectives that you are trying to achieve. The next slide is a history of US bear and bull markets. Importantly here is really just kind of taking note of the averages, right? So the average bull market period lasted 4.3 years. Stellar return, but that's not the point. Bull market 4.3 years, bear market 11.1 months. Putting that together, you're typically kind of hovering around the low 5 years for a full investment cycle to take place, right? That's a bull market as well as a bear market. You can see the frequency of these bull and bear markets in the chart below. And again, the kind of take home here is making sure that if you're committing capital to an asset class like equity, you're going for the higher risk, you're going for the higher returns. Let's say you need it from a life asset income model point of view. Important to understand how that cycle can play out, and making sure that capital you have allocated there is in the correct place for the objective that you are trying to achieve. I will share these slides with Scott if you guys want to go through any of this quite fascinating stuff on here, and I think it helps kind of create that long-term investor mindset that is so important. All right, point number 3 is performing an asset allocation review. Understand how you are currently positioned and determine whether this is adequate for what you are trying to achieve. The asset allocation is something I've referred to a few times today. But ultimately, asset allocation is really just different asset classes. I've listed 4 there in the infographic on the right, just your kind of main 4. There are sub asset classes, and there's a lot of them. I actually have a slide on it which I will share for you. But each asset class comes with a certain degree of risk, right? It's important to understand that and know exactly what you're allocating to in terms of that risk profile, because in doing so, you'll understand whether or not, or rather how much risk you're putting on that capital and whether or not that is the right asset class for you. So when we look at asset allocation, it's largely driven by the parameters of the life aim that we just worked through. As an example, in the previous life aim that we worked through, Mr. X needed to achieve a real return of 7%, which we understood adding back inflation of 3% was a nominal return of 10% per annum. If Mr. X is going to just sit in cash, he is not going to be able to achieve that objective, right? Can we all agree that cash, depending on where you are in the world, is not going to get you that 10% return, whether that return is in dollars or in rands, whatever it might be? You're going to struggle and you're going to be off the pace. What happens then is that maybe for the first year it's not so bad. The second year it starts to get a little bit worse, but that problem compounds over time. And again, by example of the 1% underperform scenario, you can see that over time that problem compounds. So it's important to understand what you're trying to achieve, what you need to achieve from a life aim point of view, and then matching different asset classes to achieve that objective. Right. Again, this can be dependent on the time horizon of the investor. Let's make the assumption here that we're going for the long term, we're saving for retirement. I do note that it can be influenced by one's personal goals. Again, if you are saving for a car next year or a deposit on a house, you are probably going to use low risk investments because you don't want any capital loss. Then maybe you might be looking at things like cash investments. You might be looking at things like income funds. Anything on the kind of lower end of the risk. Maybe it's a private debt opportunity that's paying a fixed interest rate or something along those lines. Again, if you're saving for retirement, you understand the objectives that you're trying to achieve, you will more than likely have a longer term time horizon. And because of that, it allows you to take on higher levels of risk and achieve those higher levels of return. All right. When looking at your own portfolios, understand your current exposure and whether this is sufficient to meet your objectives. The little infographic below that titled risk is one that I quite like. I ran this over a 5-year annualized period up until the end of August this year. I haven't updated it for the last couple of months, but it still gives you an idea. The first holding is the iShares MSCI World ETF. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's an exchange traded fund, probably one of the bigger exchange traded funds in the world, and it gives you very broad exposure to all developed markets in the world. And to give you perspective, we can see there the return of that over an annualized period in US dollars has been 13.04% over that time period. And its standard deviation, not to get too technical here, but standard deviation is a measure of risk. So its risk is around 15.75. Meaning that out of these 4 asset classes here, it's typically our higher risk, our highest risk. That makes sense, right? It's pure equity. It's 100% invested in equity markets. So you would imagine that it has a higher degree of risk, and you would also want to be rewarded for taking that additional risk in the form of return, right? The next one is
just quickly,
yes.
Anthony. I think what's quite important there with what you just said is that I spoke yesterday, I told people about risk, and sometimes these sort of terms scare people and they think, oh, I don't know what this is. But in simple terms, standard deviation is just if 10% is like the norm, and if it swings from it goes above 20 and below zero and whatever. It's all over the place. So the point is it's very volatile and therefore it's more risky. So most of you know what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin's a great example. It has massive upside and then it has massive downside. And so it's deemed to be very risky. And therefore you need to have you have to have a good return to justify taking the risk. Whereas other asset classes don't nearly have as much high and low. And therefore they make sense in terms of they're lower risk. So I just wanted to kind of paint a bit of color to what Anthony was trying to say there, because the return column explains what is the perceived return, and the standard deviation, and I always love the financial industry. I don't know why they can't just put risk, but it would basically be return risk.
Yeah. Thank you, Scott. Very, very good points there. Risk is not a bad thing. The word, like Scott says, it scares people. But if you've got an understanding of how these different asset classes operate, it equips you with that knowledge to then build a portfolio based off what you're trying to achieve. Right? That's the kind of key takeaway of this, is being able to marry your portfolio holdings to your life aim, and ensuring that you are in an asset class, or you've got this diverse array of asset classes that can deliver the return objective as set out by the life aim. Right, that's what you're trying to achieve here. So you need to have a good understanding of how each of those assets behave, so that you can build an optimal portfolio off the back of that. In my earlier example with cash is not going to get the job done. Yes, maybe cash forms a small component of the portfolio because you need to rely on it for liquidity at some point. Maybe there's an emergency and you need to draw down on something. So it can have a role, but again, understanding where you want to be and what you want to target, what you need to target, is crucial when constructing portfolios. If you've got mountains and mountains of money and you actually need a return of 2 or 3%, you don't need to take a lot of risk. Then maybe those options become important for you. It then becomes a preservation strategy of how do I take the least amount of risk and still get my objectives in the future. So it's very person specific. Making my way back to the chart there before I digressed. My goal here is to show you different asset classes, and to show you the return of those asset classes relative to their risk. Right. So you can see here we're scaling back on risk. Each asset class we go down. So we've got global equity, we've got gold, which is a good one. Gold has been quite topical of late. You can see there over 5 years. And
I'm here. Let me just check what's going on. Okay, 2 seconds. 40. Sorry, guys, I am here. Let me just see why that stopped playing. Oh, so weird. Sure. What is going on there? Okay, I'm a little bit confused now. Why? What is going on? Never happened to me before. You still with me? Everyone still here? I don't really know what's going on with my Zoom. Sure. Okay, let me try again. Assume you can all see me and hear me. Yeah, you'll hear. Okay, great. Let me just try. Sorry, I have no idea why the Zoom is suddenly freezing on that video. Let's try again quickly. That is so weird. Okay, let's do it another way. We will stop sharing. And I'll do another way. So just give me 2 seconds. This is called improvisation. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, I'll just share my screen directly. We'll go content only. And I will, no, we'll go, which one is it? Yeah, it's that one.
Everyone's probably looking at that and scratching their head. That is global bond markets. They've had a really horrible time of late. So the return doesn't kind of fit squarely amongst the others, but they would be considered your kind of slightly higher risk in comparison to cash, which is our last line item there. That is US dollar cash over the last 5 years. And you can see there a risk of pretty much zero. So again, if looking at it from bottom to top, you're kind of building up the risk profile as you go up onto each of these investments. And as a result of that, you should be rewarded accordingly as you go up the risk spectrum in the form of return. Right. The only one that disrupts my chart a little bit is global bond markets for their own certain dynamics, but remove that and you should kind of fit squarely between equity and cash is where your bonds would come in. Alrighty, looking at section 4, looks at diversification in the context of what you are trying to achieve. Another interesting section. We spoke about asset classes. We looked at those main 4. That really was just a snapshot of a much broader ability to allocate to different underlying asset classes. So it's important when you create diversification in your portfolio to again have knowledge of this, understand exactly what you're actually investing in so that you're not repeating holdings. You might think that you're creating diversification, but when you actually kind of drill down into it, you could have a lot of holdings that are going to behave very similarly if there were to be any kind of volatility or stress on those holdings. We also note that there is an ability to add alpha via manager selection and style allocation. Alpha, another fancy word for outperformance. So if you get your asset allocation correct, you can typically derive an additional return as a result of getting that call correct. So again, important to have an understanding of the landscape of the environment. If you are allocating to active managers, just make sure that you understand the role that they can potentially play within your portfolio, whether that is outperforming from a return point of view or taking on less downside should there be a market volatility event. They don't always have to outperform on the upside. They can protect you on the downside, and that's also a form of outperforming. We use active managers.
Anthony.
Yeah.
Can I just put what you just said into English?
Please.
So in simple terms, what you just said was, say for example, the market is getting an average return of 10%. If you've got a passive, that it means that the manager just puts your money in and it just kind of sits there and it kind of goes up and down depending on what happens with the market. Whereas an active manager tries to play the game. So they try and buy and sell stuff. They try and basically beat the market. And so what Anthony was trying to say is that where they're beating alpha, is where the active manager, if the market's doing 10%, they might be getting you 12 or 13%. So they're getting you better than what the average is. And that's on the upside. And then what Anthony was trying to say on the downside was, say for example, the market's down 20%, but your portfolio is only down 5%, you're actually still better off by 15% than the average. So that's what he means by outperforming the average in terms of the market. And then again, active is someone that's kind of buying and selling actively versus someone who's just passively putting your money into the market. I don't know if that helps. I don't know if I'm dumbing it down too much or you already understand what Anthony's saying, but I just want to put English into what he's sharing.
I think that helps. Thank you. Thank you, Scott. And maybe just to bring it home with an example. So I take two passive exchange traded funds. The first one I look at is the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF. That is an exchange traded fund that tracks the 500 biggest companies in the United States. I'll make the assumption that quite a few of you know what the S&P 500 is. And then in the bottom chart, I use a broader index or exchange traded fund in the form of the MSCI World, which has majority of its exposure to the US, but it also includes other developed markets. It is also quite a big, well-known exchange traded fund. What I then do is I take two active managers, and I just show the role that they can potentially play within someone's portfolio. I'm not turning this into, for those that have a bit of a deeper knowledge on the subject, I'm certainly not turning this into an active versus passive debate or discussion. I think there's room for both within a portfolio, but it's more just to kind of drive the point home around you do get managers that have the ability to outperform, like Scott says, and you can see that here in the first column on both of these examples. Whilst the S&P 500 did 14.7% annualized over this 5-year period, you do have guys that were able to edge them by a few percent. And what we also look at is understanding the level of risk that respective manager took to achieve that return. So this would be your both of these are purposely Goldilocks type scenarios in which your active manager not only outperforms their benchmark, but also does so at lower levels of risk. All right, that's your kind of best case scenario. But as I said just now, I would remind you that one can also use them. Maybe their return isn't as good. Maybe it lags by 1 or 2%, but their risk or their standard deviation is noticeably lower. Therefore, the thinking is, obviously we don't know because these are all future events, but the thinking is that if there were to be some volatility event, that specific manager would protect you more than what the exchange traded fund would on the downside, and therefore you're outperforming not only by generating higher returns, but not falling as much as the market should there be a volatility event. And you can think about that logically. Let's think of the sell-off this year between March and the first week of April. S&P 500 down 18, 19 odd percent over that 4-5 week period. Had you had someone that you only went down 10%, your recovery is faster and the ability to move back into compounded growth scenario is quicker. So the ability to protect on the downside can also be a major benefit. I did jump forward a slide just to kind of pick up where Scott was talking to. I'm going to jump back a slide because I don't want to miss the very important chart on the bottom right-hand side. And that is determining the role or having an understanding of the role that alternatives play within your portfolio. Alternatives, as you can see on the infographic on the left-hand side, I just give you the 5 main asset classes in the form of equities, bonds, alternatives, commodities, and cash equivalents. And then I also show the underlying sub-asset classes within each of those major asset classes. As you can imagine, equities has a whole host of different sub-asset classes, as well as bonds. Focus now being on alternatives and more specifically private equity. A lot of the work that Scott does falls in the private equity space. A lot of the platform ticks the boxes of those private equity investments, and it's important to understand the role that these can play within your portfolio. We lean on a chart on the right-hand side. I haven't actually got a new one. This is slightly dated, but the theory certainly does still hold. On our two axes, we have on the left-hand side here. I always get confused whether this is X or Y axis. It's been a long time since I was last at varsity.
X is on the bottom, Y is on the
That's the one. That's the one. I'm glad someone listened in class. So we've got on our x-axis, we've got standard deviation. So you can see that at the bottom here, again, a measure of risk, looking at the risk profile of these investments going from 9, 9.5, 10, 10.5, 11. So increasing risk on the bottom. And then on the left-hand side, we've got our annualized return increasing from 8, 8.5, 9, 9.5, 10, 10.5. So in other words, if we look, these are different constructions, portfolio constructions with the inclusion of private equity, right? So if we start on the bottom right, where my cursor is now, assuming you've got a portfolio of 30% bonds, 70% stocks, zero allocation to private equity, you would ultimately be carrying one of the higher risk profiles. So you can see here our standard deviation is its highest, and you would be achieving the lowest return of this composition, right? You guys can all see that. Bonds have somewhat lost their attractiveness over the last couple of months. I should say that with caution, because every dog has their day. But you can think of this as a full equity portfolio, or you can think of this as the 30% bonds and stocks. The important takeaway is the inclusion of private equity into the equation. All right, that is the takeaway. What happens then on each of these pie charts is it starts to ramp up the inclusion of private equity, right? So we go from 0% private equity to 5% private equity. We're dropping down in terms of our risk, and we're increasing the potential for annualized return. And that relationship exists from 5 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 20. As you kind of work your way up here, your returns increase and your risk drops. So private equity plays a very important role in one's portfolio. Why is that? It's uncorrelated to markets. Remember, private equity is investing in private small businesses that are not listed on a stock exchange. They, in most cases, are immune to stock market drama. They can navigate that quite nicely. So they do complement a portfolio of stocks and bonds really nicely. This taps out at around 20%. We typically don't advocate for private equity exposure more than 30%. This doesn't kind of just go all the way up until you've got 100% private equity, right? There is that inflection point where it starts to revert and go back the other way. So we typically try and keep that private equity allocation within 20 to 30% of the portfolio. Private equity is also illiquid. It's not accessible usually over quite lengthy periods of time. So you don't want to be sitting on 100% private equity and then all of a sudden you need to draw some capital out to pay for something, because that's not going to happen. So it's important to again acknowledge that, understand it, and then construct portfolios around that.
Anthony, just before you move on, I just wanted to show people on your slide. So if you can just point to the bottom right corner of where there's no private equity, zero private equity. So just what's really important there is that if you take the average person, they're going to see their financial advisor, and they're generally weighted 60-40 bond stocks or maybe 70-30 bond stocks. So that's pretty much like Jill and Joe Soap average 99% of the world's population. And just in my interest, like type in the chat box if you have invested in private equity, or literally just type in yes if you've invested in private equity and no if you haven't. And look how few people would have invested in private equity. So Archie said yes, Marina said yes, because they're both mastermind members. Jeanette said yes, because she's a mastermind member. But look at everyone generally. Connie said yes, she's a mastermind member. So the only person who has so far is Richard, that's not a mastermind member. Anyway, and the other Richard a little bit yes. But I think you get the point. Derek is a mastermind member. So you get the point in terms of what I'm trying to point out. And basically what Anthony's showing you is that all of you that are kind of following what the typical financial industry are doing are putting you in high risk, low return investing. So yeah, enough said. Back to you, Anthony. Just pointing out why the industry is broken.
Thanks, Scott. All right, we've touched on this. We've touched on this slide. I think we're comfortable around that. Point number 5 is to always ensure that everything that you're doing is tied to your personal objectives. Incredibly important. I cannot stress that enough. I have spent a bit of time talking about it, but it is quite crucial. Again, examples here: short-term goals, long-term goals, any defined outcomes other than retirement. If one is retired, you can explore the silo approach. I'm going to dive into the silo approach. Now I'm going to make the assumption that because we've spoken about short and long term, that everyone is comfortable with that. When one moves into retirement, things can get quite interesting, right? It's a nice opportunity. This is not a given. One doesn't have to do this, but it's a nice opportunity to have a look at the portfolio and potentially rebalance it and to reconstruct it in such a way that it's now positioned to provide you with this income, right? Again, I want to stress that the word retirement is not necessarily a literal one. It may be if you are employed and you have a kind of predefined retirement date, but it's ultimately everyone has different situations where they're receiving some kind of income, and it's ultimately that point in time where that income stops coming in and you now need to replicate it by using your investments, right? Maybe that's a personal objective of trying to remove themselves from business or the workplace as quickly as possible to become reliant on their investments. Then that would be your retirement in the asset income model. But don't focus on it as the literal sense of the word. What does one do? How does one start to think about portfolio construction when you move into that retirement period of your life? We look at it through 3 silos. Those 3 silos are our income silo, our essential capital silo, as well as our growth silo. Each one of those silos has a different objective, and it's trying to achieve something different to the next one. And together they are working to create sustainability of one's portfolio, right? So I've separated it here between those 3 silos. Again, as a reminder, the income silo, essential capital silo, and the growth silo. Importantly, each silo is targeting a different time horizon, right? So the income silo is targeting 3 to 5 years. Right? It's less than 5 years. It's lower risk. Its sole purpose is to provide you with an income, right? That is the role of the income silo. Like I say, underneath that, You need to have enough capital in there to cover you for 3 to 5 years, but that is it. You do not want to over allocate to that silo. Why? Because then you're committing more capital to a lower time horizon, a lower risk objective, and a lower return profile. You want to purposefully engineer this so that at the end of that 3 to 5 year period, this money must run out. It's meant to run out. It should be depleted, right? It will then take the profits from the essential capital silo that will then be topped up in the income silo. So imagine growth sitting at the top, essential capital sitting in the middle, and income sitting at the bottom. And imagine you're filling each silo and they're overflowing into the next one, right? You're trimming your profits from other silos and they're making their way down into the income silo. They're low risk in nature. They typically make use of income and bond funds. We understood from the previous slide that those are our lower risk asset classes. We do not want volatility. We do not want too much up and down fluctuations, because we don't want to have a scenario in which we are drawing capital from a capital base that has dropped in value as a result of volatility. The target growth rate of this is typically in the region of 6 to 8% per annum. One could use private debt income opportunities. Scott has a couple on his platform that are really suited for this kind of silo. One would look at defensive structured products. And again, as a reminder, once depleted, it's topped up by the essential capital bucket. So the whole purpose of making sure that you have specific amounts of capital in specific silos when you are retired is so that you aren't overly committing too much money into one silo on a lower or a higher risk profile. That can work both ways, but you're trying to create an outcome where you've got a defined portion of capital with a defined objective, and it's targeting low risk opportunities. In doing so, you free up other portions of capital that can be targeting higher risk opportunities and therefore generating higher levels of return. Remember our chart just now where we understood risk relative to return? That's exactly the same concept here. Looking at the essential capital silo, this role of this essential capital silo is to house capital for 5 to 7 years. Again, you can clearly see that we're stepping up the time horizon, and as a result of that, we are able to increase the risk profile. It's no coincidence that this coincides with an average market cycle of 5 to 7 years. We need it to coincide with that market cycle because it allows us to increase the risk profile. Here, we will typically look at your more kind of balanced medium risk type opportunities. Maybe we've got some equity, maybe we've got some bonds in there, maybe we've got some other asset classes that help smooth the risk profile a bit and make it less risky than pure equity or long-term private equity. But we are increasing the risk profile because we are trying to target slightly higher returns in the form of 8 to 12% per annum. And we're able to do that because we're increasing the risk profile. I then make a note here that once these funds exhibit strong returns or they're nearing the end of a cycle, one should reallocate profits to the income bucket. The income bucket or silo gets topped up, and the process repeats itself. Right. So again, you're purposely running out of your income silo. You want that to deplete, taking profits from elsewhere, and you're re-topping up that income silo. If you keep doing that, again, you're not overly committing too much capital to a low risk, low return type environment. Very, very important to make sure that you have those silos apportioned. Lastly, our growth silo. This is where all the fun happens. This is where the higher risk, higher return type opportunities find their way into the portfolio. that's got a much longer time horizon. You're looking at anything from 7 years and longer. It's therefore great. It's a great place to house your higher risk, higher return type investments that typically need a longer time frame to mature and realize their value. Think private equity. Think those longer deals that have really attractive upside, but they require that patience over a longer term. Again, we group kind of property in here, private equity, pure equity, those type of investments. We're targeting the highest level of return, which is typically 12% and higher. That would depend on the specific opportunities, and it would depend on the market environment. But I think you get the gist of the kind of increasing risk and return profiles of each of these silos. And again, think of the waterfall that we just spoke about. Upon maturity of investments, look to top up the essential capital silo with the profits from the growth silo, and anything remaining can be used for legacy or inheritance. Again, that will be very dependent on each person's personal circumstance. Some people might never even get to this growth silo, right? It might just be kind of sitting there. But again, it all depends on your own personal circumstances. Lastly, monitoring and tracking performance. I think this is a pretty self-explanatory topic, but it's always good just to mention it because it is important. Monitor performance relative to benchmarks on a quarterly and annual basis. Just understand where you're at, understand what you're achieving relative to the market and what objective you need to achieve. It's always good just to have a good idea as to how things are going. Monitor performance relative to your financial plan and your life asset income model. This can be done at longer intervals due to market cycles. You're not going to check those kind of things on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis. I think at most you want to check these things once a year. But remember that return target that you're trying to achieve, as much as we would all love it to happen in a straight line, the reality is that markets do not go up in a straight line. They have good years, they have bad years. So you're ultimately looking for that average over a 5 to 7 year market cycle. And that's going to give you a good accurate indication of whether or not you're on track. But keep an eye on it, and make sure you're comfortable with the results. If there are any changes, maybe you inherit a huge chunk of money, or maybe you have an unforeseen expense that kind of derails your asset income model a bit. It's important to identify those changes and remodel those changes. I think someone's not on mute there.
I'll mute everyone.
Okay. I think you want to.
Hang on, Anthony, you need to unmute yourself. I muted you. Sorry, bugger.
There we go. No worries. Lastly, rebalance the portfolio if there have been any significant changes in the parameters, or if specific targets have been met. If you're planning for shorter term targets and you've met those targets and everything's good, you can look to rebalance the portfolio. If you've seen a specific sub asset class that's done exceptionally well and you're well in line to achieve your objectives, there's no harm in taking a bit of profits there and reallocating elsewhere. Typically all investments kind of work in cycles, some having better cycles than others, and then that typically starts to rotate and you see capital moving into other asset classes. So it's important to just kind of acknowledge that, keep an eye on it, and if there is a need to reallocate to investments that offer greater upside potential, then one should make those as well. And that is me on portfolio construction.
Anthony, what do you suggest we do in terms of, there were a couple of questions. Kevin had one, Archie had one, Sonia. Okay, what did you all think? Let me know your thoughts in the chat room, please. Was that useful? Can you see the benefit of dealing with a family office? Now, just as my interest, if you join the Wealth Accelerator, there's a follow-on to that where he actually goes and does all the modeling. So he spends about an hour taking people through the modeling, and he shows people, I'm going to show you tomorrow, how 1% return between 6%, 7%, and 8% can be the difference between running out of money at like 84, this is for the average person, living comfortably until you're 99, or dying at 99, 100, and leaving your family $7.5 million. Does that make sense? So I'll share those slides with you tomorrow. And for those of you who join the Wealth Accelerator, you'll get access to that. Now, the other thing I wanted to share with you here for the people, and by the way, if you join the Wealth Accelerator, you automatically get access to Wealth Hackers anyway. But if you go to the Wealth Hackers, and I'm just showing you all of the resources that Anthony and I have built in terms of where you're at. So if you go to this one here, Core Wealth Principles, I just need to find the one that he did. Here we are. It's this document, the 6 Pillars to Wealth and the Bucket Strategy. So that Foundation of Financial Freedom, this document here is everything he just shared there in terms of the 6 Pillars to Wealth, and then also the Bucket Strategy. So again, all of the resources are there so that people can learn the information, but then they can also go and implement the information in terms of it. So I'm conscious of time, and I'm now going to pivot to just sharing with you what I shared with you. So we'll try tomorrow and go through this in more, again, but I do, while it's fresh in people's mind, I've shown you people today how you can master. So between myself and Garth and Anthony, I've shown you what the family office does, and I've shown you that if you're here and you want to be wealthy, and this is a wealthy person, then copy what they're doing. Now, you can do it on your own, no problem, or you can partner. So if you want to partner with the family office and you want to jump in the airplane, then I'm going to with your permission. Do you want me to share quickly how you can jump in the airplane? I know I'm over time. There's nothing I can do about the recordings. I wanted you to hear it. But would you like me to share quickly how you can jump in the airplane today? And again, if you need to duck, I understand. I will try and go through it again tomorrow and Friday, just so it's clear. Because by the time people leave on Friday, I want them to not only have all the knowledge, but I want them to be able to make the right decision as to whether they want to get in a car, whether they want to get in, whether they want to walk, whether they want to get in a car, or whether they want to get in a plane. Okay. Okay. Let me share it with you quickly. I'm conscious of time. I did say today would be longer because there's no ways for me to rush what Anthony's teaching in terms of the process. Okay, so that is not the presentation I want for you. So let me just get up the presentation I want for you, which is this one. Okay, so all of the slides are in there as well for the people that join the Wealth Hackers and the Wealth Accelerator. So now you can truly see, you can get to choose. Do you want to go, do you want to walk? Do you want to go in the car, or do you want to jump in an airplane? And it's all about the accelerating to the freedom zone. So let's pivot into the final step. So remember, people don't get it because they use the excuse, I don't have money. So, people will be sitting there and saying, I can't even walk. I can't even join the Wealth Hackers. I don't have money. Well, I've shown you today my example with Tony Robbins, where I found a way and it had a geometric impact to my life in the next 12 months. That's why I bought so much into this mastery concept, because I figured that I can get there quicker, simpler, and safer. The next thing they use, I don't have the knowledge. Well, I've shown you basically through partnership how you can literally get the knowledge. You can partner with people. You can jump in an airplane. You can jump in a car, and you can accelerate a lot quicker. And that's why we call it the Wealth Accelerator, where you can actually have people hold your hand and show you. And the final one is I don't have time. And so we find that generally when we're dealing with people, they're successful business owners, they're entrepreneurs, they're farmers, they're doctors, whatever it is, they're business professionals, they got corporate jobs, and their biggest problem is time. Okay. And they come to me and they say, I don't have the time. Well, I was exactly the same. I also had that excuse. And, when I met Niels originally, he said to me, I don't have the time. I don't have the time. And there's a testimonial that I've got from Niels that I'll play for you at another time. I don't have time today to play it. But, what he said was that he didn't have the time, but then when he invested, it just took the peace of mind, like that he had this burden on his shoulder around financial. And so he was looking after his business. His wife was looking after, she's in the medical industry, and they never had the time. And yet when they finally did it, it was so liberating. That's what he said. It was so liberating, and they finally took control. And so, this is the formula. And people always say, well, I don't have the time. But the question is, how do you actually get what you want? How do you get the knowledge through partnership? And how do you get the time that you want? And the story I wanted to share with you was a personal one. So I was on stage in 2011. That is me in 2011 there. And that is Roger Hamilton. And, he was interviewing me on stage. And I found it really interesting because I was really intrigued by his mastermind, which was all around entrepreneurship. And I wanted to sign up, but I said to him, I don't have the time. I'm too busy. I'm running my business. And he said, Scott, well, the very problem with you is that unless you learn from the right people, and unless you implement the right systems, and unless you hire the right people, you're never going to have the time. And so in those days, I paid $12,500 and I joined his mastermind, and he showed me how to set up a business. He showed me how to employ the right people and to put in the right systems. And you fast forward a couple of years, and I was part of his mastermind for 10 years. The price went from $12,500 a year to $25,000 a year, which is what I invested in myself. But this was the outcome. In 2015, I went to Necker Island. This was me with Richard Branson on Necker Island. You can see me having fun here up at the top in the jacuzzi and even relaxing. And what was so interesting is that by investing in myself with Roger, I got back the time. So while I was here, my business was running, the teams were running, the people were doing what they needed to do. And so my question for you is, do you want your time back? And, in simple terms, with the question is that people are in their comfort zone and they use excuses like, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, I don't have the knowledge. But actually where the magic happens is when you get out of your comfort zone. And so I built the mastermind with the Calio team to help people get out of their comfort zone. And what people, people get committed when they're 5 times more committed to their ideas. So I help them come up with their own ideas. And everyone that joins is here for results. But it's all the stuff below the iceberg, the values, the assumption, the thinking, the bias, the judgments. It's all things that hold us back. And you know that 95% of people are in an away state. They're withdrawn, they're fearful, their inability to make good choices, they're demotivated. And the way to get in a towards state where you're happy, ability to think clearly, creative, senior opportunities, motivated, optimistic, make good decisions, work accurately, problem solve, forgiving, experience joy, open to more information. There's only 2 ways to do it. The one is you get in a like-minded community, and 2, like a mastermind, and 2 is you get very clear on your outcomes. So I personally take everyone that joins the mastermind and we get very clear on what are your top 3 outcomes. We call this the lighthouse model. And I've been part of mastermind since 2011, and they were so powerful for myself that I finally went to my board in 2022 and I said, listen, if they're so successful at helping people get results, why don't we have our own mastermind? And it was when I found this video that it explained why the power of masterminds is so powerful. So enjoy.
No, this is extremely predictable. There's tons of research around it. Humans change 5 times faster in groups than they do with a one-on-one coach, consultant, or therapist in that case.
Wow.
So I started looking back at business models and people who had done this effectively over the generations. Masterminds aren't new, folks. They're not new at all. People have been doing this for thousands of years. And when you put a collection of people together who are all committed, all driven, and all so want to make the right changes happen, and you give them a leader to follow who's willing to get in the trenches with them, all of a sudden you start finding real, rapid life or business transformation.
So, again, what he said there was, when humans work in a group, they get there 5 times quicker than they do with a one-on-one coach or therapist. Sorry. And what you need is a group of people who are committed and driven and so want to make the right changes. And then you have a leader who's prepared to jump in and support them. And that's when you get real rapid life and business transformation. And so that's why we created the mastermind. And we launched it in September of 2022. It's now been going for whatever that is, three and a bit years. We call it Private Wealth Global. It's about getting results safely and simply. And it's an enhanced partnership between our family office and us and ourselves. And how it actually works is to achieve exactly what we're spoken about. So all the theory that I've been teaching you, it literally takes people through and building globally diversified passive income and portfolio growth. How do we do it? Well, we diversify across countries, currencies, assets, partners, and time. And what do? We follow this model. We literally help people get clear on their goals. We have monthly coaching, accountability, and knowledge. And then we have tasks and activities to help people get results. But in simple terms, there are 9 steps. So today I'm going to go through this very quickly for you, but I would strongly recommend you take a picture or a screenshot of this, because if you go to your financial planner, you want to make sure that they are following all of these 9 steps. Because what I've done, I've worked with this family office since 2012, 2013, and we've gone and looked at what they do with their top 65 clients, and there are 9 steps. So you can see here that there are 3 phases: phase 1, setup; phase 2, planning; and phase 3, results. And there are 9 steps. Let me take you very quickly through those 9 steps. I've got your time, so I'm going to go through this super quick. The first one is establish your vision. So that's where you sit with me one-to-one, and we get very clear on what is your outcome. And we walk away with what are your top 3 outcomes, what are your top 3 priorities, and what are your top 3 measures, and we write them down. I mean, this is what one of my clients had to say as to the benefit for her in actually getting that clarity. We've got so much noise in our head, but how do we actually write it down and get that clarity? This is what she had to say.
Hi, Scott. This is just a quick fan message. I just wanted to thank you again for our coaching call the other day. And then also wanted to thank you for the brilliant idea of that, sort of publicly putting in your goals in that Google Sheet. I see that the Google Sheet magically populated itself since the first time I saw it. And I must say the 2024 goals are very inspiring. And it's amazing to see. I found it incredibly supportive to see, people's, just the amount of energy and the goals, and it's really inspiring. So just wanted to thank you for that. I really enjoyed reading everybody's goals. I haven't read all of them, but and somehow it's just really helpful. All right, well, have a fantastic day, and we'll see you in February. Bye.
Simplicity is power. We help our members get clear on their top 3 outcomes, priorities, and measures without feeling overwhelmed. Then we go to number 2, investment solutions. So this is where we get you on the platform. We help you get set up. You get access to the Calio private equity deals. There's a 50% discount on the fees, and you get the private banking service. So this is where we help our members invest simply and safely in high quality opportunities all in one place without complexity. Then we go to investor profile. So this is all based on the Enneagram, which is the oldest profiling system in the world. There are 9 types of investors. And we literally take people through this process, and based on what type of investor you are, there's different types of investments that you should be looking at. And every single person gets their own investment report. So who are you as an investor? What are the right type of assets you should be investing in? What are the right type of, why have you made mistakes in the past? What are your needs? How do you want to be communicated with? Everything. So there are actually 27 different types. So there's 9 primary types of investors, and then there's 3 subtypes. So there's 27 in total. So no one's being put in a box. And this helps you have a personalized strategy for you and your family. Then we basically, the Enneagram and Wealth will help our members gain clarity, insights into what motivates them, enabling a more effective decision-making process for investments. Then we go to phase 2, which is the portfolio health check. So this is where step 4, you sit down, this is all part of the planning. So you sit down with the family office, and this is where they go through your tax and your structuring. They look at your property portfolio, they look at your pensions. And ultimately, it's just like a health check when you go to the doctor. It'll help the members gain complete insight and clarity of their entire portfolio without massive overwhelm and anxiety, and enables the team to optimize the portfolio. So again, this client had properties, they had a property in England, property in America, a couple in South Africa, et cetera. They had pensions, and there was just overlap and complexity. And they just said it was so nice to bring everything under one place and to have, kind of one person be able, or one team be able to look at a holistic view. Then step 5 is where you go to portfolio optimization. Anthony went through this with you today. It starts with your wealth EQ. Who are you at an individual core level? Then it's about portfolio construction. What is your current, what are your needs? What are your current assets? And how do you actually optimize those current assets? And then finally, they build the model, the asset income model. And Anthony took you through today how they actually do that. And one of the members came back to me and they said, one of the most valuable benefits of joining the mastermind has been the introduction to the Calio partners. Through their Enneagram journey, I gained deep insight of not just my personality type, but also my unique investor profile. Working with Anthony, I was able to map out and document my current investment portfolio, identify key gaps, and explore my asset liability model. Seeing various ALMs scenarios projected all the way to 99 was truly eye-opening. It gave me a clear roadmap for where I can begin prioritizing financial freedom while still securing the retirement lifestyle I envisioned and building the lasting financial legacy for the next generation. Meeting with Garth introduced me to the critical role of a family office. His guidance has been instrumental as I navigated the complexities of managing generational wealth and succession planning within our family portfolio. So portfolio optimization will provide our members with peace of mind, knowing they have a resilient investment portfolio. Then number 6 is all about wealth, lifestyle, and legacy. So again, you've got access to a whole bunch of training by David Litschitz. He literally looks after families, billion-dollar families in America and India. And so he gave a training in terms of it. And you also, if you elect, depending on what level you elect at, Amy actually comes in and actually helps people with the family legacy bridge. So this is all about setting you up for you and your family, facilitating conversations around what are your values, what is your money story for your children and possibly for your children's children. And it's about building legacy, for your investments and your wealth. So wealth, lifestyle, and legacy plan will enable our members to create a clearly defined step-by-step action plan for their wealth, their lifestyle, and their legacy. And then we go to results, which is phase 3. The first one is accountability and execution. So again, you want results, but it's all the stuff below the iceberg. 95% of people are in this away state. We want you in the towards state. How do we do that? Well, we start off with me and you getting very clear on what is your outcome per the Lighthouse model. But then on a monthly basis, we have group coaching. So I have group coaching and accountability where I sit with you on a monthly basis and we help you and we get very clear on, every month, have you done what you said you're going to do? What is the task and activity in terms of where you're at? So the group coaching, and again, reports will show that 99% of individuals who have a coach report them as useful, with 95% reporting that it'll be very helpful to them. 96% reported that they would engage in coaching services again. Or if you want to do one-to-one coaching with me, then that's a different level, but it's transformational one-to-one coaching, and I literally take you through it. And Angie said to me, thanks so much again for the session. I always leave feeling re-energized, motivated, and feeling good about what I've accomplished. And you offered for me to make recommendations on how you can help enhance my experience is highly appreciated. You rock. Okay, and then finally, you've got the daily activities. I find that it really comes down to habits. So there's a whole process we take people through in terms of their habits. And then we got time management. And literally every single person that I deal with, time is one of their biggest assets. So how do you implement time management? We've got a bunch of tools to help people be more effective with their time so that they can get more output with less input. And again, something I'm implementing with 20 of my members this year is the 10x is easier than 2x. It's all about how to get 10 times the output with less effort in terms of the process. So accountability, mindset, and execution will provide our members with tools and resources to achieve ongoing measurable performance. Then step 8 is community, partners, and knowledge transfer. And this is where we've got a learning platform, calendar and events, accountability, community engagement, and engaging interactive community-based learning. So what do we do every single month? You can literally go to the platform. So this is where we've got a platform specifically for our mastermind. And you can go here, you can start here, and you've got all 9 steps laid out. So you monitor all 9 steps. And then if you want to go and be part of our 10X Elite, this is a group of 20 of us that are implementing the 10 principles of 10X Elite so that we can ensure that we 10X our results in 2026. What do we do on a monthly basis? Well, I always say to people that say, how much time do I need to commit? I say no more than 3 hours a month. And if you tell me you don't have 3 hours, then you're never, ever going to get wherever you want to get to in terms of wealth. It's just not going to happen. So on a monthly basis, Anthony comes and for half an hour, he gives us a market update. So we need to know what's going on in the market and the currencies and everything. Then we go through the portfolio construction. We look at the different assets. Then every month I bring in an expert. So every month you're learning. So your knowledge is growing every single month around a topic. We look at deals to invest in, and we review and track our process in terms of it. So you can just see some examples of screenshots. And again, people continually tell me, mind-blowing, very valuable, extremely enlightening. The perspective is valuable, it's so liberating, etc. Right. Community partners and knowledge transfer help our members enhance their knowledge, invest in quality partners, and empower themselves to increase their confidence and make better decisions for themselves and their families. And then finally, it's investments and results. Through quality investments and partners, we enable our members to achieve results in globally diversified passive income and portfolio growth. And, you know, some of you will say, I'm gonna play this video for you tomorrow with Cynthia. She's a teacher. And some of you say, oh, I don't have the money. I don't have a lot of money, whatever. Well, Cynthia was a teacher and she joined the mastermind. She's got the most amazing video, which I'm going to share with you tomorrow. And she said, thank God for this mastermind, the partners it brings us, and the exponential learning curve that it's gifted us. And so I will take you through the opportunities, and I'll talk more about them if you want to connect with me one-to-one. But there's 3 levels that we've got within the mastermind. We've got core, which is about a retail investor wanting to become sophisticated. It's about mastering your portfolio, and it's all about building the right systems and the right partners. We've got 10X Elite, which is for high net worths looking to become global investors. It's about global diversification, and it's the execution environment for 10X implementation and results. And then finally, we've got Legacy, which is for generational wealth investors, and that's where you ensure your legacy. And it's where the family office steps in and does everything completely for you. There are some bonuses. You got access to the immigration agents. You got access to come on the buyers trips with us. And obviously you get first access at the wealth weekends. If you're interested, you can literally go to this link, Diversification Mastermind. I'll just put the link quickly in the chat for everyone. And you'll actually see here. So if I put it in here, so let me just put it in the chat for you quickly. So you cannot just join the apply for mastermind. So you can't, when we do the mastermind, it is by invite only. So I meet with everyone face to face. And the way this works is that when you go to this link, you can see there's a video from me, and there's 2 options. If you are decided, right, the mastermind's for me, it's a no-brainer, then I would do the priority. What that basically does is you pay $500 as a deposit, and you meet with me. And you and I make sure that there's a mutual fit. If for some reason there's not a fit, you'll be refunded the $500, so there's no risk. But what it does do is it gets you priority. So think about it when you're in the airplane, at the airport, you get it in the priority queue, or if you're at the bank in terms of private banking. So because we can only onboard 5 people at any one time, because it's time constraints. You're meeting with me personally, you're meeting with the family office personally, etc. So the people, if this is like, right, it's a no-brainer, I'm joining the mastermind, then you go in the priority queue, and that, you know, they get first access. If you're not sure and you want to talk to one of my colleagues and understand it more, then you just go to the apply and you set up a call with Alex, my partner, and he can talk it through. He can understand what you're looking for in terms of the process. So that's really where you're at. If you want to go look here, you can see on this page, there's a whole FAQ here, and you can go and watch all of the different videos and testimonials from, you know, many, and I've got literally hundreds of these, but, you know, just in terms of the different people and the impact that it's had in their life. So if you're interested, you literally just go to this link, diversificationmastermind.com, and you apply. And again, in terms of results, we work with people, and the whole logic is, you know, if you do the steps, and we've got the partners, we've got the systems to help you get results in, you know, 5 times quicker, simpler, and safer. That's the process of how we do it. Now, some of you are left-brained and you're saying to me, well, Scott, give me the return on investment. So I did the return on investment. I had someone that, you know, had $12,000 to invest, and they're like, is this actually worth it for me? And if the VIPs want, I can go through some more detail. But in simple terms, if you're investing $1,000 a month, which is, roughly 15, 20,000 Rand a month, and or you've got $12,000 in capital, which is roughly 150,000 Rand, and you invested $6,000 in yourself to be part of a mastermind, then, you know, the return over 5 years would be 182%. So your return on investment would be 182%, or roughly $10,900. So if you went to a casino, and that's in today's money, so if you went to a casino and you knew that if you were going to put down $6,000 today, but you were going to make back $10,991, you do it, it's a bit of a no-brainer. Well, this is the power of partnership. This is the power of having the right partners. Over 10 years, it's an 800% return on investment, or $48,000. So again, you invest $6,000 in yourself to make $48,000. And over 30 years, it's a 12,400% ROI, or $743,000. So again, is your wealth a journey you want to go on just for the next year, for the next 10 years, or for the next 30 years? Because I think it should be the next 30 years. No matter how old you are, it's you building assets for yourself, for your children, for your children's children. And this is the impact it has over time by having the right partners. So if it makes sense to you, come and go to that link, diversificationmastermind.com. I want to share with you how this all started. So, 15, 20 years ago, we were doing buyers trips, and we would fly over to America and England and Australia. This was a picture of me in New York with a bunch of people. Nowadays, you got the mastermind. You can do this from the comfort of your couch. You can literally sit there and get started in terms of this whole process. Anna, I saw your question. I'll come back to answering it now once I've finished. This was us in Times Square. This is Dr. Dolph DeRoos and I. I invested $8,000 to go and learn from him in 2011, 2012, I can't remember. This was us buying houses on the steps of the auction house in Phoenix, having fun, going in a helicopter down to the Grand Canyon, having a drink at the bottom of the Grand Canyon, going to a show in Vegas, buying houses in Atlanta, buying more houses in Atlanta. By the way, that's Michael, who you met on the day one when he gave you the testimonial. Ricky, he came on a buyer's trip with us when he was 23. 10 years later, he's done over $1 billion in real estate in America. Opening bank accounts in the old days, you used to have to fly over and open bank accounts. Now you can do everything on the platform in terms of that process. Learning from the partners, again, you used to have to fly over. Now you can sit in the comfort of your home and we bring the partners to you. And then having fun on Beale Street in Memphis. So we always, we learn, we have fun, but it's all about like-minded people and doing stuff together. This was up in North Dakota, where the fracking is, and we were looking at commercial property up there, having fun on Halloween. And interesting enough, 3 of these men are some of the wealthiest men in Africa. They own the biggest privately owned retail portfolio. And they knew if they came to America, they didn't want to do it all on their own. So they came on a buyer's trip. And these are the opportunities you now have access to. Why you believe you should work with us? Well, again, these are all the excuses people have. Remember, we went through the excuses yesterday. And generally it comes down, I don't have the money, I don't have the knowledge, and I don't have the time. Well, at the mastermind level, we've democratized this so that, a whole nother segment of people can get access to the family office. You get the knowledge through partnership, and we've reduced time. We've taken 10 years, what would generally take someone 10 years, and we've condensed it into 3 hours a month in terms of that process. So this is the way that you get what you want, you get the knowledge you want through partnership, and you get the time back that you want. And we're also the only platform that does global diversification. Now, I'm not telling you to do anything I haven't done, just some of the values that I've invested. In Singularity University, I invested $14,000, which was all about technology. Roger Hamilton was entrepreneurship, $25,000. Mavericks, which is how I got to spend time with Richard Branson, was $40,000. And Tony Robbins was $50,000. Like, these are the amounts that I personally have invested in myself that's enabled me to progress and get there quicker, simpler, and safer in terms of the process. So that is the process. The mastermind is the way to help you get there 5 times quicker, simpler, and safer. We call it Private Wealth Global, and it's all about getting results safer and simpler. We follow this 9-step process. And again, as a bonus, you get access to the immigration agents, the wealth weekends, and the buyer's trips in terms of where you're at. So if you are interested, you can literally go to this link, Diversification Mastermind. I'm going to share with you just a couple more pictures here in terms of where we, just houses and properties and commercial properties and partners. I've been doing this a very long time, so I've got a lot of pictures. Anna, you said, I must confess I'm overwhelmed by the plethora of financial freedom programs you offer. Your efforts to spread the good news is commendable. I will explain it to you. Think of it like that. In simple terms, we've got 3 levels. We've got walking, we've got driving, and we've got flying. So, and again, Anna, what is best? My suggestion is if you go to the front office to your thing. If you're not sure, just go to this page, diversificationmastermind.com, and just go to apply. It doesn't cost you anything. You can sit with one of the team members, exactly like you said, as a front office. And with Alex, he can understand where you're at, and he can help you make the right decision as to where the best place is for you to get started. Okay, and then this was Dr. Dolph DeRoos and I at a buying commercial property. We did about $100 million with Paul Shalanda. That's Paul Shalanda and Dr. Dolph DeRoos buying more commercial properties, doing a buyer's trip to Hong Kong, actually, to invest in Hong Kong. You can see all the different buildings. So yeah, that's the link, how to apply it, diversificationmastermind.com. And that's the formula that I've given you. And I always say to people, as you walk away today, I think there's two options. One is you can be the person that says, I don't have money, I don't have knowledge, I don't have time. You get to the end of the year, you got deep frustration, you got lots of excuses, but you don't have results. The other side of the fence is you get what you want, you get the knowledge through partnership, and you get the time that you want. And I've chosen a family here, in generational wealth. You've got multi-generations there. They're at Christmas. They've got peace of mind. They know they've got the right partners. They know they've got the right plan. And so the question you have for yourself, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. It's an African proverb. Today's homework, research and identify at least 3 different investment strategies: passive investing, active investing, and value investing. Create a hypothetical diversified investment portfolio with the different asset classes, allocating percentages to various asset classes. Again, you can go do all this work yourself, or I've already shown you today, as part of the Wealth Hackers or the Wealth Accelerator, how you can literally do this. And or consider joining the Wealth Accelerator and or the Mastermind. If you want it done for you, then the Mastermind will literally, be able to assist you with that in terms of that process. And then lastly, share one key takeaway. So it's always my wish for you is that you share one key takeaway. The gold is research the different asset classes and their historical portfolio. I've done that for you. I showed you today that I've done all the work for you. If you're not joining one of our programs, then obviously you can go do that for yourself. And then research and compare the different investment vehicles. Again, if you join the Mastermind, the family office will do your tax and structuring for you. And as you asked for, Anna, there's the link if you just want to set up a call and, with one of the team members and understand it slightly better. I'm now going to pivot to the VIP. So again, there's always an option. I know that we're running a bit late today, but if you do want to join the VIP, there's the links. You've got all the links. I'm going to bounce through this. But the choice that I want you to walk away with today is, do you want to walk? Do you want to drive, or do you want to fly? And how do you want to accelerate your freedom? If you want to walk, you've got the Wealth Hackers. And that's all the knowledge. You can do it in a home study environment, and you've got access to everything. There's over $60,000 worth of value in terms of all the home study courses. And also on a weekly basis, Alex is live. You can ask him questions, and I'm live. So that's how we hold your hand if you want to walk. If you want to jump in the car, I don't know why I don't have the slide there. But anyway, if you want to jump in the car, it's the Wealth Accelerator. And if you want to jump in the airplane, it's the Mastermind. And just to give you an overview, if you want to get started for free, you can literally get started on the Wealth University for free. If you want to walk, then you can join the Wealth Hackers in terms of getting right information and accountability. If you want to drive, you can join the Wealth Accelerator, which is the 90-day sprint to really get you the momentum. And if you want to fly, you can join the Mastermind. So hopefully, Anna, that makes it all a lot easier for you. And I know Joseph was also asking yesterday, but that's our value ladder. We want to help everyone get to their destination. The question is just how fast you want to accelerate with regards to that process. And so the options you have for yourself, the very last little green thing there is our aim is to help everyone sort of climb up the ladder to getting themselves to the results. Those are the options you have for yourself. Frustrated, stuck, anxious, probably where a lot of people were when they started here on Monday, or the generational wealth, which is freedom, peace of mind, having a plan, having a trust. You can see that I started on Monday and I taught you this. There's 4 elements to passive income and freedom. You've got to have the right partners. I've hopefully shared with you today how valuable it is to have a family office as the right partners, get access to the right deals, get the right information and diversification. And hopefully today, Anthony has shared with you and Garth and myself how valuable that is, because ultimately it comes together, and that is your paid framework in terms of how you actually get paid. So the plan for tomorrow is about managing risk. So this is really important. It's all about managing risk. and how do you find the right partners, and how do you manage risk? So I'm going to take you through that tomorrow, finding the right partners and managing risk. And as Nelson Mandela says, as we always finish off, money won't create success, the freedom to make it will. Thank you so much for all of your time. I hope you enjoyed it. I am going to end now, and I'm going to jump into the VIP session with VIPs. Please make sure that tomorrow you join us. You know, today with the family office was critically important to have the understanding around finding the right partners. And tomorrow I'm going to take that to the next level. How do you, even if you don't want to work with us, tomorrow would be very valuable for you in terms of how do you find the right partners and how do you manage risk, which is what tomorrow is all about. Because none of us like losing money. So how do you manage risk in terms of that process? So let me stop sharing. I want to thank you all for your time. I'll see you tomorrow. Do not be a dabbler and go elsewhere. Do not be a stressor and try and figure out how to do it all yourself. My advice to you, my wish for you is be a master. Find the partners who can hold your hand, and you can either walk, you can jump in the car and accelerate, or you can jump in the airplane and get there a lot quicker, simpler, and safer. That's your choice for today. Cheers, cheers. Sorry today was so long, but there's so much information to share around the family office, and I couldn't do it justice by cutting it short. I'll see you tomorrow. Cheers, cheers.